a dying library, a shy librarian, and a brutal Russian mob boss who just bought them both. When Anna Petrova shushed the most dangerous man in the city, she didn't know she was signing her own death warrant or sealing a twisted love story written in blood and rare books. This is the tale of a sanctuary invaded, a monster taught to read, and a woman who learned that sometimes the only way to survive the beast is to become his queen. Stay with me until the end, hit that like button, and comment your city so I can see how far this story travels. Rain hammered Easton like the city owed it money. The Eastern Branch Library sat on the corner of 5th and Maple, a squat brick building that hadn't seen fresh paint since the 90s. Inside, fluorescent lights flickered over rows of battered shelves, casting everything in a sickly yellow glow that made even the cheerful children's section look like a crime scene waiting to happen. Anna Petrova stood behind the circulation desk, stamping due dates into books with mechanical precision. 26 years old, pale skin, dark blonde hair pulled back in a bun so tight it gave her headaches. Gray cardigan, practical flats. The kind of woman who disappeared into wallpaper. She preferred it that way. The clock above the door read 8:47 p.m. 13 minutes until closing. The library was empty except for Mr. Chen dozing in his usual chair near the periodicals and a teenage girl with headphones who'd been pretending to study for the past 2 hours. Anna's phone buzzed. A text from her ex-boyfriend Derek. "Can we talk?" "I miss you." She deleted it without responding. Third one this week. Derek had a gift for missing her most when he was drunk, and his latest girlfriend had kicked him out. "Miss Anna?" She looked up. The teenage girl stood at the desk, hoodie pulled low, eyes red. "Yes?" Can I stay a little longer, just until 9:30? Anna saw the bruise on the girl's wrist when she pushed her sleeve back. Fresh, finger-shaped. "Of course," Anna said quietly. "Take your time." The girl's shoulders dropped with relief. She nodded and disappeared back into the stacks. Anna knew that look, knew the weight of it. The library had always been that for people. A place to hide when home stopped feeling safe. That's what made the city's decision to shut it down so unbearably cruel. 6 weeks. That's all they had left. Budget cuts, the official memo said. Declining circulation numbers. Operational inefficiency. Bureaucratic language for "we don't give a damn about the people who need this place." Anna had fought. Written letters. Organized protests. Exactly 7 people had shown up to the last one, including Mr. Chen and a woman who thought they were protesting the DMV. Nobody cared about a dying library in a dying neighborhood. She returned to her work, sorting through the day's returns. A thriller with coffee stains. 3 romance novels. A children's book so worn the cover barely held on. She set it aside for repair, knowing she probably wouldn't get to it before everything shut down for good. The front doors exploded inward. Not opened. Exploded. Anna's head snapped up as a wall of sound and fury crashed into the library's silence like a sledgehammer through glass. A man stormed through the entrance, a giant, 6'4" at least, shoulders built like a linebacker, wearing a black suit that probably cost more than Anna's yearly salary. His dark hair was slicked back severely, ice blue eyes, sharp Slavic features that looked carved from granite. And his hands, Christ, his hands were covered in elaborate tattoos that crawled up from his wrists, the kind of ink that told stories Anna didn't want to know. Behind him, 4 more men in dark suits materialized like shadows. They spread out with military precision, hands inside their jackets, scanning the room with dead professional eyes. The giant was screaming into his phone in Russian. Anna didn't speak Russian, but rage translated just fine. He kicked over the wooden chair by the entrance, a beautiful oak piece from 1952, and it shattered against the tile with a crack that made her flinch. Mr. Chen jerked awake. The teenage girl froze between the shelves, eyes wide with terror. The giant paced like a caged animal, his voice rising to a roar. Anna caught fragments that sounded like threats, like promises of violence. One of his men positioned himself by the door, another near the windows. The other 2 flanked their boss, hands hovering near concealed weapons. This wasn't a confused patron. This was a predator marking territory. Anna's hands shook. Her mouth went dry. Every instinct screamed at her to duck behind the desk, to hide, to disappear like she'd spent her whole life learning to do. But the girl, that terrified teenage girl, was still visible between the shelves, and these men were scanning the room, cataloging exits, counting civilians like they were calculating acceptable casualties. Anna's fingers found the ancient service bell on her desk. She rang it. Once. Sharp, clear. The sound cut through the chaos like a blade. The giant stopped mid-sentence. His head turned slowly toward the circulation desk. Those ice-blue eyes locked onto Anna with the focus of a predator spotting prey. She stood up. Her legs trembled. Her voice came out smaller than she wanted, but it came out. "Sir, this is a library. You need to keep your voice down or take your call outside." The silence that followed felt like standing on train tracks, watching the headlight approach. One of the suited men moved his hand inside his jacket. Another shifted his weight, ready to spring. The giant stared at her. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then his mouth curved into something that might have been a smile if it had contained any warmth whatsoever. He said something into his phone, still in Russian, but quieter now, and ended the call. The phone disappeared into his jacket. He took 3 steps toward the desk, and each footfall sounded like a judge's gavel. Up close, he was even more terrifying. Not just big, but carved from violence. A scar cut through his left eyebrow. Another one traced his jawline. His knuckles were scarred too, the kind of damage that came from hitting things, or people, repeatedly and without hesitation. "You are telling me," he said slowly, his accent thick and sharp-edged, "to be quiet?" His English was good but forced, like every word required conscious effort. Anna's survival instincts were screaming, but she'd spent too many years in this library watching it die by inches to let it become a crime scene on her watch. "Yes," she said. "Library rules, no loud talking, no phone calls. If you need to make a call, there's a vestibule outside." One of his men laughed, a short, disbelieving bark. The giant silenced him with a look that could strip paint. Then he turned that look back to Anna. "You are not afraid," he said. It wasn't a question, it was an accusation. "I'm terrified," Anna said honestly, "but I'm also the only staff member on duty, and this is a library. So, please lower your voice or leave." The giant studied her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. His eyes traveled from her face down to her white-knuckled grip on the edge of the desk, then back up. "What is your name?" he asked. "Anna Petrova." Something shifted in his expression. "Petrova, Russian name. My grandfather was Russian. I'm American. But you speak Russian?" "No." "Pity." He tilted his head slightly. "I am Alexander Vulov." He said it like she should know the name, like it should make her knees buckle. Anna had no idea who he was. "Mr. Vulov, I need you to—" "This library," he interrupted, glancing around with casual interest. "It is open until 9 o'clock, 12 more minutes. And tomorrow?" 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., Monday through Saturday. "Who owns it?" The question caught her off guard. "The city. It's a public library." "The city," Alexander repeated. He walked past her desk, those cold eyes scanning the shelves, the worn carpet, the water-stained ceiling tiles. "And they maintain it well, yes? Invest money?" Anna's jaw tightened. "No, they're shutting us down in 6 weeks." He stopped, turned. "Shutting down?" "Budget cuts." He ran one tattooed finger along a bookshelf, examining the dust that came away on his skin. "This bothers you?" It wasn't a question. "Yes," Anna said. "This library serves a community that has nothing else, but nobody cares about that." Alexander looked at her for a long moment. Then he smiled. A real smile this time, and somehow that was more terrifying than the cold mask he'd worn before. "I care," he said. Then he walked out. His men followed like a receding tide, and just like that, the library fell silent again. Anna's knees went weak. She grabbed the desk to steady herself, her heart hammering so hard she could feel it in her throat. Mr. Chen shuffled over. "You okay, Miss Anna?" "I'm fine," she lied. "You should head home. We're closing soon." The teenage girl emerged from the stacks, still pale. Anna checked out her books without comment, watched her disappear into the rainy night, then locked the doors and began the closing routine on autopilot. Her hands didn't stop shaking for 20 minutes. At home that night, she Googled Alexander Vulov and immediately regretted it. The search results painted a picture in blood and shadow. Alexander Vulov suspected Pakan, that meant boss apparently, of a Russian Bratva organization that had expanded from Moscow to New York to a dozen American cities over the past 5 years. Money laundering, racketeering, suspected involvement in at least 14 murders, though nothing had ever been proven. His organization moved hundreds of millions through legitimate businesses, shipping companies, real estate, import-export firms. The man was a criminal king, and she'd shushed him. Anna closed her laptop and tried to sleep, but every sound in her apartment building made her flinch. Every footstep in the hallway outside her door could be one of those suited men coming to finish what politeness had interrupted. She didn't sleep at all. The next morning, she showed up at the library 20 minutes early, exhausted and paranoid. The doors were intact. Nothing looked disturbed. Maybe she'd gotten lucky. Maybe Alexander Vulov had been passing through and would never think about the dying library or its mousy librarian again. At 9:30 a.m., a man in an expensive suit walked through the doors. Not Alexander. This one was older, American, carrying a briefcase that probably cost more than Anna's car. "Anna Petrova?" he asked. Her stomach dropped. "Yes? I'm James Kelleher, attorney for the Vulov Enterprises. I need you to review and sign these documents." He opened his briefcase and produced a stack of papers that looked ominously official. "What documents?" "Transfer of property ownership. As of 8 a.m. this morning, Mr. Alexander Vulov purchased the Eastern Branch Library building and all its contents from the city of Easton. The sale was finalized an hour ago." Anna's brain short-circuited. What? Purchased the library for $3.2 million cash, well above market value. The city was quite pleased. But he can't just... He can, and he did. The building is now private property owned by Vulov Enterprises. Kelleher produced a pen. "These documents outline your new employment terms. Mr. Vulov wants you to remain as head librarian. Same salary, but with a substantial benefits package and a housing stipend. There's also a 5-year employment contract with I don't understand. Why would he... I don't ask questions, Miss Petrova. I just handle paperwork. Do you want the job or not?" Anna stared at the documents. Her signature line waited at the bottom, innocuous as a bear trap. "What if I say no?" Kelleher's expression didn't change. "Then you're unemployed. The library closes anyway. And Mr. Vulov does whatever he wants with the building. Your choice." "Some choice." Anna signed. Kelleher collected the papers with brisk efficiency. "Excellent. Mr. Vulov will be conducting business from the administrative office starting Monday. I suggest you prepare the space accordingly. Have a pleasant day, Ms. Petrova." He left. Anna stood behind the circulation desk, holding the pen like a murder weapon, trying to understand what the hell had just happened. Monday morning arrived too quickly. Anna opened the library at 10 a.m., just like always. Except nothing was like always anymore. 3 black SUVs pulled up outside. Men in suits emerged, not just the 4 from that first night, but at least a dozen. They moved through the library with purpose, carrying equipment, speaking into earpieces, transforming her sanctuary into something that looked like a military installation. Alexander Vulov walked in last, dressed in another immaculate black suit, looking like death's favorite son. His eyes found Anna immediately. "Miss Petrova," he said, "show me the administrative office." It wasn't a request. Anna led him past the circulation desk, down a narrow hallway that smelled like old books and broken dreams. The administrative office was a glorified storage closet. 1 desk, 1 chair, boxes of old records piled to the ceiling, a window that looked out over the parking lot. Alexander walked in, surveyed the space with the critical eye of a general assessing a battlefield, and nodded once. "This will do? Clear the boxes." "Where should I put them?" "I don't care. Burn them if you want." He turned to one of his men. "Dmitri, get the tech team in here. I want secure lines, encrypted internet, surveillance on all entrances, and soundproofing. I don't need the whole library hearing my business." "Yes, Pakan." Anna's skin prickled. So the internet rumors were true. This man was a crime boss, and he'd just turned her library into his headquarters. Over the next week, she watched her sanctuary transform. The administrative office became a nerve center. Computers, phones, a massive safe installed in what used to be a supply closet. Armed men patrolled the perimeter. They were polite, disturbingly polite, but they were there, constant and vigilant. Patrons noticed. Circulation dropped. The afternoon regulars stopped coming. Mrs. Patterson, who'd attended every book club meeting for 8 years, called Anna to say she didn't feel comfortable anymore. Anna didn't blame her, but Alexander kept his word about one thing. The library stayed open. In fact, he'd increased the operating budget. New computers for the public terminals. Fresh coats of paint. The water-damaged ceiling tiles got replaced. He hired 2 part-time assistants to help with the workload. The library was thriving. It just wasn't safe anymore. Anna tried to avoid Alexander, but the library wasn't big enough for that strategy to work. He was there every day, conducting business behind the soundproofed walls of his office. Sometimes men in expensive suits came to meet with him. Sometimes the meetings ended with people looking pale and shaken. Sometimes she heard raised voices despite the soundproofing. One afternoon, she found herself shelving books in the Russian literature section. A small collection, mostly classics, donations from the local Orthodox community decades ago. "Pushkin," Alexander's voice said behind her. Anna jumped, nearly dropping the book in her hands. He stood 3 feet away, hands in his pockets, studying the shelf with genuine interest. "You have Pushkin and Dostoevsky, Tolstoy." He pulled out a worn copy of Crime and Punishment. "I have not seen these in many years." "They don't circulate much," Anna admitted. "Most people can't read Russian." "Can you?" "No, I told you that." He smiled faintly. "Yes, you did." He opened the book, ran his fingers across the Cyrillic text with something that almost looked like tenderness. "My grandmother read these to me before she died." It was the first personal thing he'd ever said to her. Anna didn't know what to do with that information, so she went back to shelving books. "This section is small," Alexander observed. "Like I said, not much demand." "I will change that." 2 days later, a truck arrived. Not just any truck, a massive semi carrying wooden crates that required a forklift to unload. Anna watched in disbelief as Alexander's men hauled box after box into the library's community room. Alexander appeared beside her, watching the operation with satisfaction. "What is this?" Anna asked. "Books." "I can see that. What books?" "Russian literature, first editions, rare collections, some from the 18th century. He glanced at her. "You will need to catalog them." "Where did you get—" She stopped. "Actually, I don't want to know." "Wise," Alexander said. "Very wise." Over the next week, Anna unwrapped the crates with growing horror and fascination. First edition Pushkin. Gogol, an illuminated manuscript of medieval Russian poetry that belonged in a museum, not a public library in Easton. Each book was worth thousands, some worth hundreds of thousands. The collection was priceless. It was also definitely, absolutely stolen. But it was beautiful. Anna spent hours cataloging the collection, photographing each volume, creating archival records. It was the kind of work she'd dreamed of doing when she'd gotten her library science degree, real bibliographic research, handling literary treasures. She just wished they weren't soaked in blood money. One night, working late to finish the catalog, she heard voices from Alexander's office, angry voices. She tried to ignore them, but one rose above the others. Alexander's, sharp with rage. Then a crash. Then silence. Anna's hands stilled on the keyboard. The office door opened. 2 of Alexander's men emerged, dragging a third man between them. The man's face was bloody. He wasn't fighting, wasn't conscious. They hauled him through the library and out the back entrance without a word. Alexander appeared in his office doorway, straightening his tie. His knuckles were red, fresh blood. His eyes met Anna's across the empty library. She looked away first. The next morning, she found an envelope on the circulation desk. Inside, a check for $10,000. And a note in sharp, precise handwriting. For the library. Buy what you need. No signature. Anna stared at the check for a long time. Blood money. That's what it was. She should refuse it, return it, tell Alexander Vulov to shove his guilt money up his yacht. She thought about the teenage girl with bruises on her wrist. About Mr. Chen, who had nowhere else to spend his days. About the single mothers who used the library computers to search for jobs because they couldn't afford internet at home. She deposited the check. That's how it started. That's how Anna Petrova, who'd spent her whole life being invisible and safe, became complicit in something she didn't have a name for. 2 weeks after Alexander bought the library, Derek showed up. Anna was shelving books in the biography section when she heard his voice at the circulation desk, loud and entitled. "I know she's here. Anna! Anna, come on, we need to talk." She closed her eyes, took a breath, walked out to face him. Derek looked exactly like he always did, handsome in a way that had stopped working on her years ago. Polo shirt, designer jeans, the kind of man who'd never been told no in his life. "I'm working," Anna said flatly. "You've been avoiding my calls." "I've been deleting your calls. There's a difference." "Baby, don't be like that." He leaned on the desk, using the smile that used to make her forget how badly he treated her. "I made a mistake. Jessica was a mistake. I miss you. I miss us." "There is no us, Derek. There hasn't been for 6 months. Come on." He reached across the desk, grabbing her wrist. "Let's get coffee. Just talk. That's all I'm asking." His grip was tight, too tight. "Let go," Anna said quietly. 5 minutes. That's all." She said, "Let go." The voice came from behind Derek, low and cold as a winter grave. Derek turned and the color drained from his face. Alexander Vulov stood there, hands loose at his sides, eyes flat and dead. Behind him, 2 of his men materialized like sharks smelling blood. "Who the hell are—" Derek started. "You are touching her," Alexander interrupted. His English was precise, each word cut from ice. "Remove your hand. This is between me and my girlfriend." Alexander moved. One moment he was standing 5 feet away. The next, his hand was wrapped around Derek's throat, slamming him back against the desk with enough force to knock the breath out of him. "She is not your girlfriend," Alexander said softly. "She told you to let go. So let go, or I will break every bone in your hand and feed them to you one at a time." Derek's hand sprang away from Anna's wrist like he'd been burned. Alexander held him there a moment longer, letting Derek see exactly what kind of man he was dealing with. Then he released him with a shove that sent Derek stumbling backward. "Leave," Alexander said. "And if you come back, if you call her, if you even think about her too hard, I will find you, and I will hurt you in ways that will make you forget your own name. Do you understand?" Derek nodded frantically, his throat already bruising where Alexander's fingers had been. "Good. Now get the fuck out of my library." Derek ran. Alexander watched him go, then turned to Anna. His expression shifted from murderous to concerned in the space of a heartbeat, and somehow that transformation was more unsettling than the violence. "You are okay?" he asked. Anna's mouth was dry. Her heart hammered. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes," Alexander said simply. "I did." "He was just being an asshole. You could have killed him." "If I wanted to kill him, he would be dead." Alexander stepped closer, his eyes searching her face. "Did he hurt you?" "No, he just grabbed me. This is not the first time." It wasn't a question. Anna looked away. "It's none of your business." "You are in my library." "That makes it my business." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and lifted her hand. The skin of her wrist was red where Derek had gripped her. Alexander's thumb traced the mark with unexpected gentleness. "He will not touch you again. You can't just threaten everyone who bothers me. Watch me." He meant it. Anna could see it in his eyes, absolute terrifying certainty. "Why do you care?" she asked quietly. Alexander's thumb stilled on her wrist. For a moment, something complicated moved across his face, something almost human. "I don't know, he admitted. Then he released her hand and walked back to his office, leaving Anna standing alone behind the circulation desk, her wrist tingling where he'd touched her, her brain short-circuiting trying to process what had just happened. That night she stayed late to finish shelving the Russian collection. The library was empty. Alexander's men had left with him around 7, the way they did every evening. Anna should have gone home too, but her apartment felt too small, too quiet. The library was the only place that still made sense. She was on a step stool, reaching for a high shelf, when she heard footsteps. Her heart jumped. She turned, nearly losing her balance. Alexander stood in the aisle, hands in his pockets, looking up at her. "You scared me," Anna said, pressing a hand to her chest. "I apologize. I thought you had gone home." I was just finishing up. She climbed down from the stool, suddenly aware of how alone they were, how empty the building was. Did you forget something? No. He studied her for a moment. You work too much. Says the man who's here 14 hours a day. That is different. I am building an empire. You are, what, hiding? The observation hit too close to home. Anna turned back to the books, desperate for something to do with her hands. I'm not hiding. You are, Alexander said. He moved closer, not threatening, just present. This library, these books, you treat them like walls, like if you build them high enough, the world cannot touch you. And what's wrong with that? Nothing, until someone kicks the walls down. Anna's hand stilled on the spine of a book. Is that a threat? No. His voice was quiet. It is a warning. The world does not care about walls. It will find you anyway. She turned to face him. Did you come back just to be cryptic and philosophical? Something that might have been amusement flickered in his eyes. I came back because I saw your light still on. Because I thought... He trailed off, seeming to reconsider his words. Because I wanted to make sure you were safe. Safe from what? From men like the one today. From men like me. The admission hung in the air between them. If you're so dangerous, Anna said slowly, then why are you here? Alexander smiled, a real smile, edged with something that looked almost like regret. Because even monsters need sanctuaries. And you, Anna Petrova, are the keeper of mine. Then he left, and Anna stood alone in the Russian literature section, wondering when her life had turned into something she didn't recognize. The next few weeks established a pattern. Days, Anna ran the library. Circulation was still down, but the patrons who remained seemed to adapt to the new reality. The armed men became background noise. The Russian collection drew curiosity from scholars at the university. The library was surviving. Nights, Anna cataloged the rare books while Alexander worked late in his office. They developed an unspoken routine. Around 8 p.m., he'd emerge, pour himself coffee from the staff break room, and wander the stacks while conducting business calls in Russian. Sometimes he'd stand near whatever section Anna was working in, his voice a low rumble in the background while she alphabetized and cross-referenced. She shouldn't have found it comforting, but she did. One Thursday night, Anna was reshelving in the children's section. Bright colors, tiny chairs, alphabet rugs on the floor, when she noticed him. Alexander stood near the picture books, phone pressed to his ear, and in his other hand, a children's book. Anna watched him flip through it slowly, his brow furrowed in concentration. When he finished his call, she approached carefully. Find something interesting? He looked up, and for just a second he looked caught, guilty. He trailed off. Set the book down. This section is very colorful. It's for kids, Anna said. Ages 5 to 8, mostly. Yes, of course. He turned to leave. What book were you looking at? Alexander stopped. His jaw tightened. Anna walked over and picked up the book he'd been holding. Green Eggs and Ham by Dr. Seuss. A classic. Simple words, rhyming patterns. The kind of book every American kid knew by heart. It's a good one, she said neutrally. I'm sure it is. Do you want to check it out? Why would I want to check out a children's book? The defensiveness in his tone was sharp enough to cut. Anna looked at him, really looked at him, at the way he wouldn't meet her eyes, at the tension in his shoulders, at the tattoos on his hands that probably told a story in Russian prison code, but told her something else right now. You can't read English, she said quietly. The silence that followed felt like standing in a minefield. Alexander's face went cold. That is, I'm not judging you, I'm just observing. Then observe in another direction. He walked away, back to his office, and didn't emerge again that night. Anna went home thinking she'd crossed a line she couldn't uncross. But the next night, around 8:30, Alexander appeared in the children's section. Anna was sitting on one of the tiny plastic chairs, updating her inventory spreadsheet on her laptop. She looked up, surprised. He stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets, looking like a hitman who'd accidentally wandered into a daycare. I read Russian perfectly, he said. No preamble. I was educated. I am not stupid. I never said you were. English is... He made a frustrated gesture. The words do not stay. I speak okay. But reading, he trailed off, jaw tight. In Russia, we did not prioritize English education. And by the time I came to America, I was busy with other things. Like building a criminal empire? His eyes narrowed. You are very brave when we are alone. Or very stupid. Perhaps both. Anna closed her laptop, stood up. If you want to learn to read English better, I can help you. Alexander stared at her. Why would you do that? Because I'm a librarian. Teaching people to read is literally my job description. I'm not people. I am a person who wants to learn, Anna interrupted. That's all that matters in a library. He studied her for a long moment, and Anna could see the war happening behind his eyes. Pride versus want, power versus vulnerability. Finally, he pulled out one of the tiny plastic chairs and sat down on it. The chair was comically small beneath him, a 6'4" Mafia Boss perched on furniture designed for second graders. Where do we start? He asked. Anna picked up green eggs and ham. With eggs, she said. That's how Anna Petrova found herself teaching Alexander Vulov to read in the children's section every night at 8:30. The lessons happened every night at 8:30. Anna would finish her cataloging work, brew 2 cups of terrible break room coffee, and meet Alexander in the children's section. He'd fold his massive frame into one of those ridiculous plastic chairs, and for an hour, the most feared criminal in the city became a frustrated student wrestling with phonics. The first week was painful. Alexander hated it. She could see the rage simmering beneath his forced patience every time he stumbled over a word. Men who commanded empires didn't struggle with children's books. Men who inspired fear with a glance didn't need a mousy librarian to teach them that "v" and "t" made different sounds. But he showed up anyway. The cat sat on the mat, Anna said, pointing to each word. Alexander's jaw clenched. The cat sat on the mat. Good. Now this one. The fat cat sat on the... He stopped, stared at the page. His knuckles went white. This is for babies. This is for learning, Anna corrected. There's a difference. I run an organization worth hundreds of millions. I negotiate with men who would kill me if they sensed weakness. And I am reading about fat cats on mats. Would you rather keep pretending you understand documents you sign, keep relying on translators who might lie to you? That hit home. She saw it in the way his eyes narrowed. You do not pull punches, he said. You don't need me to pull punches. You need me to teach you to read. Something shifted in his expression, something that might have been respect. He went back to the book. By the second week, they'd graduated to slightly more complex material. The Very Hungry Caterpillar, Where the Wild Things Are. Books with fuller sentences, more challenging vocabulary. Alexander was a quick study once his pride stopped getting in the way. He had the kind of focus that came from survival, the ability to absorb information like his life depended on it, because, in his world, it probably did. On Tuesday, he ate through 2 pears, Alexander read slowly, but he was still hungry. Perfect. See? You're getting it. I sound like a child. You sound like someone learning. That's not the same thing. He looked up from the book. You are very patient with me. It's my job. No, this is not your job. Your job is to run a library. Teaching a Russian gangster to read Dr. Seuss is something else entirely. Anna set down her coffee. Why do you do that? Do what? Call yourself a gangster, like you're reminding me what you are. Alexander leaned back in the tiny chair. It creaked ominously under his weight. Because you seem to forget sometimes. When we sit here with these books and this terrible coffee, you look at me like I am a person. That is dangerous. Dangerous for who? For you. The words hung in the air between them. Heavy with meaning Anna didn't want to examine too closely. I know what you are, she said quietly. I'm not stupid. Then why do you stay? Why do you sit here with me every night when you could go home, lock your door, pretend I do not exist? Anna thought about that, about the truth she'd been avoiding for weeks now. Because everyone deserves to learn, she finally said. Even monsters. Alexander smiled, not the cold smile he wore like armor, but something genuine and sad. Even monsters, he repeated. You truly believe that? I have to. Otherwise, what's the point of any of this? He studied her face like he was memorizing it. Then he picked up the book again. On Wednesday, he ate through 3 plums. They fell into rhythm. Anna learned things about Alexander during those sessions. Small things. He drank his coffee black. He had a scar on his left hand from a knife fight when he was 16. His grandmother had raised him after his parents died in a factory accident outside Moscow. He'd learned to fight in the streets, learned to lead in prison, learned to survive in a world where weakness meant death. She learned he was actually funny when he let his guard down. Dry humor, sharp observations delivered in that thick accent that turned every syllable into something slightly foreign and dangerous. She learned he listened when she talked, really listened. Not the performative listening most people did while waiting for their turn to speak, but the kind of attention that made her feel like she was the only person in the world who mattered. That should have terrified her. Instead, it made her stay later each night. 3 weeks into their lessons, everything changed. Anna was at the circulation desk processing returns when Dmitri approached. Dmitri was Alexander's right hand, tall, silent, with the kind of face that revealed absolutely nothing. "Pahan wants to see you," he said. Anna's stomach dropped. In all the weeks Alexander had occupied the library, he'd never summoned her to his office. They existed in separate spheres. Her domain was the stacks. His was behind that soundproof door. "Why?" she asked. He did not say. Anna followed Dmitri down the hallway, each step feeling like walking toward an execution. The door to Alexander's office was closed. Dmitri knocked once, then opened it. The office had transformed from storage closet to command center. Multiple monitors displayed security feeds. A massive desk dominated the room. Filing cabinets lined one wall. And Alexander sat behind the desk, looking every inch the criminal kingpin he was. "Sit," he said, not looking up from whatever document he was reviewing. Anna sat in the chair across from him. Dmitri left, closing the door behind him. The silence stretched. Finally, Alexander looked up. His expression was unreadable. "You have been working here for 6 weeks." "Yes." "And in that time you have been very professional, very careful not to ask questions about my business." "I figured ignorance was safer." "Smart." He set down the document, folded his hands on the desk. "But ignorance only works if you remain invisible. And you are no longer invisible, Anna." Her mouth went dry. "What do you mean?" "I mean, people have noticed you. My enemies, my rivals. They see me spend time with you. They see me care about what happens to you, and that makes you a target." "I didn't ask for that." "No, but you have it anyway." He opened a drawer, pulled out a folder, and slid it across the desk. "Open it." Anna's hands shook as she opened the folder. Inside were photographs of her, leaving her apartment building, walking to work, getting coffee at the shop 2 blocks from the library, sitting in her apartment at night, visible through her window. Someone had been watching her. "How long?" she whispered. 2 weeks. Maybe more. Alexander's voice was hard. "The man taking these pictures works for Ernesto Vasquez. He runs the Los Angeles cartel operations in this region. We have been competing for territory." "Competing? That's a nice word for it. Would you prefer I say we have been killing each other's men and stealing each other's business?" "I'd prefer you tell me what this means for me." Alexander leaned back in his chair. "It means Vasquez thinks you are valuable to me, which means he will try to use you to hurt me. Then fire me. Make it clear I'm nothing to you." "Too late for that." His eyes held hers. "I have made it very clear you are something to me. The way I threatened your ex-boyfriend, the way I watch you when you work. My men have noticed. Vasquez's men have noticed. Everyone has noticed." Anna's hands clenched on the folder. "So what am I supposed to do?" "You have 2 choices. You can run, leave the city, start over somewhere Vasquez cannot find you. Or you stay, and you let me protect you." "Protect me how?" "Dmitri will be assigned to you. Wherever you go, he goes. Your apartment is not safe anymore. I have already arranged for you to move into a secure building I own downtown. You will have a security detail. You will not go anywhere alone." Anna's heart hammered. "That's not protection. That's a prison. It is survival," Alexander said flatly. "Vasquez is not a man who makes empty threats. If he decides you are worth taking, he will take you, and what he does to you will be designed to hurt me in ways that make death look merciful. This is insane. This is my world. You wanted to stay in my library. This is the cost. Anna stood up, the chair scraping back violently. You're telling me I have to give up my entire life because you decided to give a damn about the librarian? Yes. The simple honesty of it was almost worse than a lie would have been. I need to think, Anna said. You have until tonight. After that, the decision is made for you. She left his office feeling like she'd been gutted. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Anna went through the motions, checking out books, answering questions, reshelving returns. But her mind was elsewhere. On those photographs. On Vasquez. On the impossible choice Alexander had dropped in her lap. At 7 p.m., she locked the front doors and stood in the empty library, trying to figure out what the hell she was going to do. The back entrance door opened. Anna spun around, heart in her throat. A man walked in. Not one of Alexander's men, someone else. Hispanic, mid-30s, wearing an expensive suit and a smile that made her skin crawl. Anna Petrova, he said in accented English. I have heard so much about you. Who are you? My name is Carlos. I work for Mr. Vasquez, and I am here to deliver a message. Anna backed toward the circulation desk. I'm not interested in messages. Oh, but I think you will be interested in this one. Carlos walked deeper into the library, hands in his pockets, casual as death. Mr. Vasquez wants you to know that he understands your situation. You are caught between dangerous men. That must be very frightening for you. Get out! He also wants you to know that he can offer you something Vulov cannot. Freedom, safety, a normal life. Carlos stopped a few feet away. All you have to do is walk away. Leave the library, leave the city. Mr. Vasquez will make sure Vulov does not follow you. You will be free. And if I don't? Carlos's smile widened. Then you will learn what happens to people who matter to Alexander Vulov. Because everyone he cares about dies, Miss Petrova. Everyone. It is his curse. And you are just the latest name on a very long list. The office door slammed open. Alexander emerged with Dmitri and two other men, weapons drawn. Get away from her, Alexander said, his voice colder than Anna had ever heard it. Carlos raised his hands, unbothered. I was just leaving. The lady and I were having a pleasant conversation. If you touch her, I did not touch her, Pakan. I simply delivered a message. Mr. Vasquez wanted her to understand her options. Carlos turned back to Anna. Think about what I said, Miss Petrova. The offer expires soon. He walked past Alexander and his men, disappeared through the back door, and was gone. Alexander holstered his weapon, turned to Anna. Are you hurt? No. Did he threaten you? Not exactly. He offered me an escape. Something dangerous flickered in Alexander's eyes. And are you considering it? Anna looked at him. This man who'd invaded her sanctuary, turned her life upside down, and somehow become the center of her entire world in just 6 weeks. I don't know, she admitted. The honesty seemed to hurt him more than a lie would have. Dmitri, Alexander said quietly, take her to the safe house. Now. I haven't agreed to… You do not have a choice anymore, Alexander interrupted. His voice was gentle, but the words were iron. Vasquez knows about you. That means you are already in danger. So you can come willingly, or Dmitri can carry you, but you are not staying here, and you are not going home. Anna wanted to fight, wanted to scream that she didn't need his protection, didn't need him, didn't need any of this. But Carlos's words echoed in her head. Everyone he cares about dies. Fine, she said. I'll go. The safe house was a luxury apartment in a high-rise downtown, floor-to-ceiling windows, modern furniture, a security system that probably cost more than Anna made in a year. It felt like a gilded cage. Dmitri did a sweep of the apartment, checked the locks, and positioned himself outside the door. Anna stood in the middle of the living room, still holding her purse, feeling completely untethered from reality. Her phone buzzed. A text from Alexander. You are safe now. She wanted to throw the phone across the room. Instead, she texted back, Am I? His response came immediately. As safe as anyone in my world can be. That's not very reassuring, I know. Anna set the phone down and walked to the window. The city spread out below her, lights glittering like broken glass. Somewhere down there, Vasquez was planning his next move, and Alexander was planning his counter move, and she was stuck in the middle, a pawn in a game she didn't understand. She didn't sleep that night. The next morning, Dmitri drove her to the library. 2 other security personnel followed in a second car. They swept the building before letting her inside. Anna went through her morning routine with armed men watching her every move. Alexander was already in his office. She could hear his voice through the soundproofing, not the words, just the cadence. Sharp, commanding, angry. She tried to focus on work, failed spectacularly. At noon, Alexander emerged. He looked exhausted, lines around his eyes she hadn't noticed before. Tension in his shoulders. "We need to talk," he said. They went to his office. He closed the door, and suddenly the room felt very small. "Vasquez has declared war," Alexander said without preamble. "Not just on me, on everyone associated with me, my businesses, my people, and now apparently you. I'm not associated with you, I just work here. You think Vasquez cares about that distinction?" He ran a hand through his hair, a rare gesture of frustration. "Last night, 3 of my men were killed, 2 more injured. One of my warehouses was burned to the ground. This is retaliation for something I did 6 months ago, and it will not stop until one of us is dead." Anna's stomach twisted. "What did you do 6 months ago?" "I killed his brother." The words landed like a punch. "His brother," Anna repeated. "Ricardo Vasquez. He was trafficking women through my territory, young women, some of them children." Alexander's voice went flat. "I gave him a chance to stop. He chose not to. So I stopped him permanently." Anna sat down heavily. "You killed him." "Yes." "Did he deserve it? Does it matter?" "Yes, it matters." Alexander looked at her for a long moment. "He was a monster, the things he did to those women." He stopped, shook his head. "Yes, he deserved it. But that does not change the fact that Ernesto Vasquez wants me dead because of it. And now he wants to hurt me by hurting you. So what do we do?" "We?" Alexander's eyebrows rose. "There is no we, Anna. This is my war. You are just collateral damage." The words stung more than they should have. "Then let me go," Anna said. "Take Carlos up on his offer. Let Vasquez protect me if it means ending this." "No." "Why not?" "Because Vasquez does not protect anyone. He uses them and discards them when they are no longer useful. If you go to him, you will disappear, and I will never find you." "Maybe that would be better." "For who?" Alexander's voice was rough. "Not for me." The admission hung in the air. Anna's breath caught. "Alexander, do not," he said quietly. "Do not say whatever you are about to say, because I am trying very hard to do the right thing here, and if you give me a reason to be selfish, I will take it." "What's the right thing?" "Keeping you alive, keeping you safe, even if it means you hate me." Anna stood up, walked to where he stood by the window, close enough to see the exhaustion in his eyes, the tension in his jaw. "I don't hate you," she said. "You should. Probably, but I don't." His hand came up slowly, carefully, and brushed a strand of hair away from her face. The touch was so gentle it made her ache. "You are making this very difficult," he murmured. "Good." His thumb traced her cheekbone. "Anna!" The office door burst open. Dmitri stood there, weapon drawn. "Pahan, we have a problem." Alexander's hand dropped. His entire demeanor shifted from vulnerable to lethal in a heartbeat. "What problem?" "The library. Someone broke in last night after we left. Security footage shows 3 men. They were inside for approximately 20 minutes. Anna's heart stopped. "What did they do?" Dmitri's expression was grim. "You should see for yourself." They followed him through the library. At first, everything looked normal. The circulation desk, the reading areas, the computers. Then they reached the children's section. Anna stopped dead. The room had been destroyed. Every bookshelf toppled. Picture books ripped apart, pages scattered like confetti across the floor. The alphabet rugs slashed to ribbons, the tiny plastic chairs crushed under boot heels. But that wasn't the worst part. Spray painted across the back wall in blood-red letters, "We know where you sleep, bear." Anna's legs gave out. Alexander caught her before she hit the ground. His arms wrapped around her, holding her up while she stared at the destruction of the one place that had ever felt safe. "Who did this?" she whispered. "Vasquez's men," Alexander said. His voice was black ice. "They are sending a message." "What message?" "That nowhere is safe. Not even here." Anna pulled away from him, walked into the ruins of the children's section on shaking legs. She bent down, picked up a torn page from Where the Wild Things Are. The page where Max sails away to the land of the monsters. Something inside her broke. Not fear, not sadness. Rage. Pure, incandescent rage. "Get out," she said quietly. Alexander frowned. "Anna, get out!" She spun to face him. "All of you, get out of my library." "We need to secure the scene." "Secure it? It's destroyed." "They destroyed it." Her voice cracked. "This was the only place in the whole goddamn city where people could feel safe, and you turned it into a war zone. You brought your violence here, and now it's ruined. Everything is ruined. I am trying to protect you." "I don't want your protection." Anna threw the torn page at him. "I want my library back. I want my life back. I want to stop feeling like I'm drowning every single day because I made the mistake of shushing the wrong fucking man." The words echoed in the destroyed room. Alexander's face went very still. "You are right. This is my fault." "Damn right it's your fault. And I will fix it." "You can't fix this. Look at it." She gestured at the carnage. "How do you fix this?" "I will kill Vasquez," Alexander said simply. "I will burn his entire operation to the ground. I will make him regret ever looking in your direction. And then I will rebuild this library exactly as it was. That's not, and I will find whoever did this, and I will hurt them in ways that make them wish they had never been born." The coldness in his voice should have terrified her. Instead, something dark and satisfied uncurled in Anna's chest. "Good," she heard herself say. Alexander's eyes widened slightly. "Good? Yes, good." Anna picked up another destroyed book. The Very Hungry Caterpillar. Their book. The one they'd read together just last week. Someone had torn it in half. "I want them to hurt. I want them to regret this. Is that wrong?" "No," Alexander said quietly. "It is human. I thought I was better than this. Better than wanting revenge." "You are not better. You're just like everyone else. You simply had the luxury of never being tested before." Anna looked at the destroyed children's section, at the blood-red warning on the wall, at the man standing in the middle of it all, looking at her like she was something precious and breakable. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now?" Alexander's expression went cold, hard, the monster sliding back into place. "Now I go to war, and you stay in the safe house until it is over." "No, this is not negotiable." "You're right, it's not." Anna stepped closer to him. "If I'm already a target, then hiding won't help. They know about me. They know about this place. Staying away just means they win. Staying away means you stay alive. And what kind of life is that? Locked in a tower, waiting for someone to decide my fate?" She shook her head. "No, I'm staying. I'm helping clean this up. And I'm going to watch you make them pay for what they did." "Anna, you said I was making this difficult. Well, congratulations. It just got a hell of a lot harder." Alexander stared at her. Then slowly, something like pride crossed his face. "You are either very brave," he said, "or very stupid. I think we established I'm both." He almost smiled. Almost. Then his phone rang. He pulled it out, glanced at the screen, and his entire body went rigid. "What?" Anna asked. "It is Vasquez." He answered the call, put it on speaker. "Yes?" "Pacan." Vasquez's voice was smooth, accented, amused. "I hope you received my message." "I did." "Good. Then you understand the position you are in. You have something of mine. I want it back, and until I get it, everyone you care about will suffer. I have nothing of yours. You have my territory, my businesses, my respect." Vasquez laughed. "And now it seems you have my attention. Your little librarian is very pretty, by the way. Such a shame she has to die because you cannot let go of things that do not belong to you." Anna's blood ran cold. Alexander's hand tightened on the phone. If you touch her, you will what? Kill me? You've been trying to kill me for 6 months, Bear, and yet here I am. Maybe the old dog is losing his teeth. Maybe the dog is just waiting for the right moment to bite. We shall see. I will be in touch, Pahan. Give my regards to Miss Petrova. The call ended. Silence filled the destroyed children's section. Then Alexander threw his phone against the wall so hard it shattered. Dmitri, he said, his voice shaking with barely controlled rage. Get every man we have. I want Vasquez's locations mapped, his supply lines cut, his men hunted. I want everything he has built turned to ash. Yes, Pakan. And double the security on Anna. She does not leave this building without 4 men minimum. If anything happens to her, I will hold you personally responsible. Dmitri nodded and left. Anna and Alexander stood alone in the ruins. You should not have stayed, Alexander said quietly. You should have run when you had the chance. Too late now. Yes. He turned to look at her and his eyes were full of something that looked like grief. Too late for both of us. That's when Anna realized the truth. She'd chosen this. The moment she'd told Alexander to make them hurt, the moment she'd refused to hide, she'd crossed a line she could never uncross. She wasn't a victim anymore. She was part of the war, and there was no going back. Over the next week, the library became a fortress. More men, more weapons, security cameras everywhere. Alexander moved his entire operation into the building, transforming the community room into a command center. Anna watched it happen with numb acceptance. There was no point fighting it anymore. The children's section remained destroyed. Alexander's men had cleared the debris, but he refused to let anyone rebuild it yet. When this is over, he told her, when Vasquez is dead, then we rebuild. If they survived that long, the war escalated fast. 2 more of Alexander's businesses were hit. A restaurant burned down. 3 men killed in a shootout outside a warehouse. Vasquez was systematic, methodical, dismantling Alexander's empire piece by piece, and Alexander retaliated with equal brutality. Anna heard things, whispered conversations, phone calls conducted in rapid Russian. She saw men leave with hard faces and return with blood on their clothes. She didn't ask questions. She didn't want to know. But one night, unable to sleep in the safe house, she asked Dmitri to drive her back to the library. It was 2 a.m. The building should have been empty except for security, but Alexander's office light was on. Anna walked down the hallway, her footsteps echoing in the silence. The office door was slightly ajar. She pushed it open and stopped. Alexander stood in the middle of the room, his back to her. His white shirt was splattered with blood, fresh blood. His hands, his beautiful, scarred, tattooed hands, were soaked in it. On the floor, tied to a chair, was a man Anna didn't recognize. He was unconscious. Beaten so badly his face was unrecognizable. Blood pooled beneath the chair. Alexander turned. When he saw Anna, his expression didn't change. No guilt, no shame, just exhaustion. You were not supposed to see this, he said quietly. Anna couldn't move, couldn't speak. Her brain was trying to process what she was seeing, trying to reconcile it with the man who sat in tiny plastic chairs and struggled through children's books. He is one of Vasquez's lieutenants, Alexander continued, his voice flat. He knows where Vasquez is hiding. I am persuading him to share that information. You're torturing him. Yes. The simple honesty of it was somehow worse than a lie. Does it work? Anna heard herself ask. Usually, but this one is stubborn. Alexander looked down at his bloody hands. You should go. Dmitri will take you back to the safe house. Is this what you do? When you leave at night? When your men come back with blood on their clothes? Yes. How many people have you killed? Do you really want to know? Anna thought about that. About whether knowing would change anything. About whether ignorance was still an option. No, she finally said. I don't. Smart. She should have left. Should have walked away, gone back to the safe house, pretended she'd never seen this. Instead, she stepped further into the room. Does he know where Vasquez is? She asked. Alexander's eyes widened slightly. Not yet. Will he tell you? Eventually. Everyone breaks eventually. Anna looked at the unconscious man, at the blood. at the monster she'd somehow fallen for. Then make him talk faster, she said. Because I want this over. Alexander stared at her. You understand what you are saying, what you are asking me to do. I understand that Vasquez destroyed my library, threatened my life, turned everything I care about into a war zone. Her voice was steady, cold. So yes, I understand exactly what I'm asking. Something shifted in Alexander's expression, something dark and satisfied. Go back to the safe house, Anna, he said quietly, and do not come back here until morning. Why? Because what I am about to do is not something you need to witness. Anna held his gaze. Maybe I do. No. His voice was gentle but absolute. Trust me. You do not want this memory. Go. Now. She left, but as she walked back through the empty library, she knew the truth. She'd already crossed the line. The woman who'd shushed a mafia boss 6 weeks ago was gone. In her place stood someone who could look at torture and feel nothing but impatience for results. Someone who could love a monster and not flinch from the blood on his hands. Someone who'd chosen survival over morality. And there was no going back. The man talked. Anna didn't ask how Alexander made him talk. She didn't want to know. But the next morning, when she arrived at the library, the office had been cleaned. The chair was gone. The blood was gone. Everything looked normal except for the smell of industrial cleaner that couldn't quite mask the copper tang underneath. Alexander was in the command center, surrounded by maps and laptop screens. His men moved around him with focused urgency, speaking in rapid Russian, pointing at locations on the maps. He looked up when Anna entered. Dark circles under his eyes. He hadn't slept. We found him, Alexander said. Vasquez? His main operation, a compound outside the city, heavily guarded but not impossible. He turned back to the maps. We move tonight. Anna's stomach tightened. Tonight? Every hour we wait gives him time to move, to fortify, to strike again. We end this now. What do you need me to do? Alexander's jaw clenched. Stay here. Stay safe. Let me finish this. That's not Anna. He crossed to her, lowered his voice so his men couldn't hear. I need you alive when this is over. I need something in my life that is not covered in blood and gunpowder. So please, for once, listen to me and stay here. She wanted to argue, but the exhaustion in his eyes, the tension in his shoulders, the weight of everything he was carrying, it stopped her. Okay, she said quietly, but you come back. You hear me? You don't get to make me care about you and then die in some warehouse shootout. Something soft moved across his face. He reached up, cupped her cheek with his hand. His palm was warm, calloused, surprisingly gentle. I will come back, he said. I promise. Then he kissed her forehead, a brief, chaste touch that felt more intimate than anything Anna had ever experienced, and walked away to plan his war. The library closed early that day. Alexander's orders. By 6 p.m., everyone except security personnel had cleared out. Anna watched from the circulation desk as Alexander and his men prepared to leave. Weapons checked, vests secured. Dmitri distributed ammunition with mechanical efficiency. They looked like soldiers heading into battle, which Anna supposed they were. Alexander appeared beside her one last time. He'd changed into tactical gear, black fatigues, body armor, a weapon holstered at his side. He looked every inch the Bratva kingpin, the monster, the man who'd killed dozens without hesitation. But when he looked at her, his eyes were just human. If something goes wrong, Shepti, he started. Nothing's going wrong. Anna, if something goes wrong, Dmitri has instructions. He will take you somewhere safe, somewhere Vasquez can never find you. You will have money, documents, everything you need to start over. Stop talking like you're not coming back. I am being practical. You're being morbid. She grabbed his vest, pulled him closer. You promised. So keep your damn promise and come back alive. He smiled, genuine, warm, heartbreaking. Yes, ma'am. Then they left. The library fell silent. Anna stood at the circulation desk, listening to the SUVs pull away, and felt like she was watching a piece of herself drive toward something terrible. Dmitri remained behind with 2 other men. They positioned themselves at strategic points, one by the front entrance, one by the back. Dmitri near Anna. How long will this take? Anna asked him. Hard to say. Could be hours. Could be all night. And if he doesn't come back? Dimitri's expression didn't change. Then I follow his orders and take you somewhere safe. That's not an answer. It is the only answer I have, Miss Petrova. Anna tried to work. Tried to catalog books, update records, do anything to keep her mind occupied. But her hands shook too much. Her focus kept drifting to her phone, waiting for it to ring, waiting for news. An hour passed. 2, 3. At 9 p.m., her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. He's not coming back, but we are. Anna's blood turned to ice. Dimitri, she called, her voice tight. He was beside her in seconds. She showed him the text. His face hardened. Get to the office. Now. Lock the door. What's happening? Just move! Anna ran. Behind her, she heard Dimitri barking orders into his radio in Russian. Heard the other men moving, weapons drawn. Heard something that sounded like glass shattering, then gunfire. Anna dove into Alexander's office, slammed the door, locked it. Her heart hammered so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. She fumbled for her phone, tried to call Alexander. No answer. Tried again. Nothing. The gunfire outside intensified. Short, controlled bursts. Then shouting, more breaking glass. Something heavy hit the floor. Then silence. Terrible, suffocating silence. Anna pressed herself against the wall beside the door, her breath coming in short, panicked gasps. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but there was nowhere to go. The office had no other exit, just the door and a window that looked out over the parking lot. Footsteps in the hallway, slow, deliberate. Miss Petrova, a voice called, accented, amused. I know you are in there. Come out, please. Let us talk like civilized people. Vasquez. Anna's hands shook so badly she could barely hold her phone. She typed out a message to Alexander with trembling fingers. Vasquez is here. Office, please. She hit send and prayed. I am not a patient man, Vasquez continued, and my men are not gentle. You can come out willingly, or they will break down the door and drag you out. Your choice. Anna looked around desperately. The desk, the filing cabinets, nothing useful, nothing that could help her. The window. She ran to it, tried to open it, locked. Of course it was locked. She grabbed the desk chair, swung it at the glass. It bounced off. Bulletproof. Ah, I hear you trying to escape, Vasquez said. Very resourceful. But Alexander thinks of everything, yes? That glass will not break. And even if it did, my men surround the building. There is nowhere to run, little librarian. The door handle rattled. Anna backed away, pressing herself into the corner, making herself as small as possible. Maybe if she was quiet enough, still enough, they'd... The door exploded inward. Not kicked, blown. Some kind of breaching charge that turned the lock into twisted metal and sent the door crashing open. 3 men stormed in, weapons raised. Behind them, Ernesto Vasquez walked in like he owned the place. He was smaller than Anna expected. Maybe 5'10", slender build, expensive suit, handsome in a way that felt oily, wrong. His smile never reached his eyes. There you are, he said pleasantly. Anna Petrova, the woman who tamed the bear. I have been so curious about you. Anna couldn't speak. Terror had locked her throat shut. Vasquez gestured to his men. Bring her. They grabbed her arms, hauled her to her feet. Anna struggled, kicked, tried to scream, but one of them clamped a hand over her mouth. Please do not make this harder than it needs to be, Vasquez said. I do not want to hurt you, yet. But if you fight, my men will hurt you, and they enjoy their work far too much. They dragged her through the library, past Dimitri's body sprawled in the hallway, blood pooling beneath him, past the other 2 guards, also dead, past the circulation desk where she'd spent 6 weeks trying to pretend her life was normal. Out the back entrance where 2 more SUVs waited. They threw her into the back of one. Vasquez climbed in beside her. 2 of his men got in front. The door slammed shut. Where are we going? Anna managed to ask, her voice barely a whisper. Somewhere your bear will never find you, Vasquez said, unless he survives tonight, which I think is unlikely. What did you do? I did what needed to be done. Alexander received information about my compound. Very good information. Very detailed. so detailed that it was obviously a trap. But he went anyway because he is predictable. He always chooses violence first. Vasquez smiled. Right now, he is walking into an ambush. 20 of my best men, waiting. Even the great Alexander Vulov cannot survive those odds. Anna's vision blurred. You're lying. Am I? Call him. See if he answers. She tried. Her hand shook so badly she could barely hold the phone, but she tried. No answer. She tried again. Nothing. You see? Vasquez said gently. He is already dead. Or dying. And now you are mine. This is what happens to people who stand between me and what I want. The SUV drove through the city, away from the library, away from everything familiar. Anna's brain felt like it was short-circuiting, unable to process what was happening. Alexander was dead. Dmitri was dead. She was alone with a man who looked at her like she was meat. They drove for maybe 30 minutes. Anna lost track of time. Every attempt to orient herself, to figure out where they were taking her, failed. Her mind kept circling back to one thought. Alexander promised he'd come back. He promised. The SUV finally stopped. They'd arrived at some kind of warehouse district, abandoned buildings, broken streetlights, no witnesses. Vasquez's men hauled Anna out of the vehicle, their grips bruising her arms. Inside the warehouse, the space had been converted into something that made Anna's stomach turn. Plastic sheets on the floor, a chair in the center, bolted down, hooks hanging from the ceiling, tools laid out on a metal table. This was where people came to die. Sit, Vasquez ordered, pointing to the chair. When Anna didn't move, one of his men shoved her down hard. Another produced zip ties, bound her wrists to the chair arms, her ankles to the legs. The plastic cut into her skin. Vasquez pulled up a second chair, sat down facing her, too close. Close enough that she could smell his cologne. Expensive. Cloying. You're afraid, he observed. Good. You should be. But I want you to understand something, Anna. I am not a monster. I am a businessman. And what is happening to you is simply business. Business, Anna repeated, her voice hollow. Your bear took something from me. My brother, my territory, my respect. And when you take from Ernesto Vasquez, there is a price. He leaned forward. The price is everything you love, destroyed in front of you. So you will sit here and you will wait. And when I receive confirmation that Alexander is dead, I will let my men do whatever they want with you. And then I will send him a video of what remains. A final message from beyond the grave. Anna's breath came in short, sharp gasps. You're insane. I am thorough. There is a difference. One of Vasquez's men approached, whispered something in Spanish. Vasquez's expression changed, hardened. What? He snapped. More urgent Spanish. Anna didn't understand the words, but she understood the tone. Something had gone wrong. Vasquez stood abruptly. How many? The man held up fingers. 5, maybe 6. That is impossible. He went to the compound with 20 men. They should all be dead. More frantic Spanish. Vasquez's face went pale. He pulled out his phone, made a call, waited. Made another call, cursed viciously. He turned to Anna, and his expression was no longer pleasant. Your bear is alive, he said, and apparently he is very angry. Anna's heart leaped. He's coming. Yes, he is coming, which means we are leaving, now. Vasquez gestured to his men. Cut her loose. We take her with us. One of the men approached with a knife. That's when the warehouse lights went out. Total darkness. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then hell arrived. Gunfire erupted from somewhere above them. Muzzle flashes lit the darkness in strobe light bursts. Vasquez's men scattered, returning fire, shouting in Spanish. Anna couldn't see anything, could only hear the chaos. Bullets tearing through metal, men screaming, boots pounding concrete. Someone grabbed her in the dark. She screamed, tried to fight, but hands closed around her zip-tied wrists. A knife blade sliced through the plastic. A voice growled in her ear in heavily accented English. Come, now! Not Vasquez's voice, one of Alexander's men. He hauled her up, dragged her away from the chair. They ran through the darkness while gunfire lit their path like lightning. Anna's legs barely worked. She stumbled, and the man caught her, half-carried her toward a door. Emergency exit. Red light glowing above it. They burst through into an alley. More SUVs. Alexander's vehicles. The man shoved her toward one. Inside, go! Anna scrambled into the back seat. The door slammed behind her, and Alexander was there. He looked like he'd walked through a war zone. Blood on his face. His tactical vest torn. A gash above his left eye that was still bleeding, but alive, moving. His eyes found hers in the dim light, and something in his expression cracked. "You are okay," he said. Not a question, a desperate need for confirmation. "I'm okay." He pulled her against him, one arm around her shoulders, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. His other hand went to her face, checking for injuries, cataloging every scratch and bruise. "I thought—" His voice broke. "When I got your message, when I saw the library—" "Dmitri," Anna whispered. "He's dead. They're all dead." "I know." His jaw clenched. "I know, and Vasquez will pay for every single one of them." The driver's door opened. Another of Alexander's men, blood-spattered, grim, slid behind the wheel. "We have him cornered, Pakan," the man said. "Inside. Maybe 4 men left." "Good." Alexander looked down at Anna. "Stay here. Lock the doors. Do not leave this vehicle no matter what you hear." "Where are you going?" "To finish this." He started to pull away, but Anna grabbed his vest, held on. "Don't go back in there. Please. Just let's leave. Let him go. It's not worth dying over." "He took you." Alexander's voice was black ice. "He put his hands on you. He was going to hurt you. That is worth everything. Alexander, stay. Here." He kissed her, brief, fierce, desperate, and then he was gone. The SUV door slammed shut. Anna watched through the tinted window as Alexander and 3 of his men disappeared back into the warehouse. Watched the red emergency exit light swallow them. Then waited. Gunfire echoed inside the building. Sporadic at first, then sustained. Then silence. Anna's hands clenched in her lap. Every second felt like an hour. More gunfire, closer, louder, then nothing. The warehouse door opened. Alexander emerged, supporting one of his injured men. 2 others followed, dragging someone between them. Vasquez. He was alive. Barely. Blood soaked his expensive suit. His face was a mess of bruises and cuts, but conscious. Aware enough to understand what was happening to him. They threw him into the back of another SUV. Alexander returned to Anna's vehicle, climbed in beside her. His hands were shaking. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving just the exhaustion and the fear underneath. "It is over," he said quietly. "Is he dead?" "Not yet." Alexander's eyes were flat, empty. "But he will be, slowly, painfully, in ways that will make him beg for death long before it comes." Anna should have been horrified, should have recoiled from the cold brutality in his voice. Instead, she just felt numb. "Take me home," she said. "Home?" "The safe house, the library, anywhere. I don't care, I need to not be here." Alexander gave orders to the driver. The SUV pulled away from the warehouse, leaving the chaos and blood behind. They drove in silence. Anna stared out the window at the city passing by, normal people living normal lives, completely unaware that a war had just been fought in the shadows, that people had died, that she'd almost died. "I am sorry," Alexander said suddenly. Anna turned to look at him. "For what?" "For bringing this into your life, for making you a target. For," he gestured helplessly, "for all of this. You didn't make me stay. I chose to stay. You chose because I gave you no other option. I bought your library. I forced you into my world, and you almost died because of it. But I didn't die. You could have." His voice cracked. "If we had been 5 minutes later, if Vasquez had decided not to wait, But you weren't. And he did. And I'm alive." Anna reached over, took his bloodied hand in hers. "So stop apologizing and just be here. With me. Right now." Alexander's fingers tightened around hers. "I do not deserve you." "Probably not. But you have me anyway." They arrived at the safe house. Alexander's men swept the building first, secured it, then gave the all clear. Inside, Anna headed straight for the bathroom, needing to wash off the terror and blood and everything else. The shower water ran red at first. She didn't know if it was her blood or someone else's. She scrubbed until her skin was raw, until the water ran clear, until she could breathe again without feeling like she was drowning. When she emerged, wrapped in a towel, Alexander was sitting on the edge of the bed. He'd stripped off his tactical gear, cleaned up the worst of the blood. The gash above his eye had been bandaged. He looked exhausted, hollowed out. "You should sleep," Anna said. "So should you." Neither of them moved. "What happens now?" Anna asked. "Now we rebuild. The library, your life, everything Vasquez destroyed." Alexander looked up at her. "And we figure out how to live with what we have become." "What have we become?" "Survivors, at any cost." Anna sat down beside him on the bed. The towel was damp, soaking into the blanket, but she didn't care. "I told you to make him talk faster," she said quietly. "I watched you walk into that office covered in blood, and I told you to hurt him more. What does that make me?" "Human." "Is that what you tell yourself? When you do the things you do?" Alexander was silent for a long moment. Then, "No. I tell myself I am doing what is necessary, that the world is violent and cruel, and only the strong survive. But that is a lie. The truth is, I am good at violence. I understand it. It makes sense to me in ways that peace never has. And that makes me a monster, no matter how I justify it." "Then we're both monsters." "No." He turned to face her. "You are not like me. You are good, Anna. You stayed good even when I dragged you into darkness. That is why I—" He stopped, looked away. "Why you what?" "Why I love you." The words hung in the air between them. Anna's breath caught. "You love me." "Yes." "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard." Alexander's mouth twitched. "Probably. We've known each other 6 weeks. Most of that time I was terrified of you." "I know." "You're a criminal, a killer. You've destroyed lives. You're probably going to hell." "Almost certainly." "And Anna's voice broke. "I watched men die tonight. I watched you plan torture. And the worst part is I don't even feel guilty about it. I just feel empty. Like something inside me broke, and I didn't even notice until it was too late." Alexander reached up slowly, cupped her face with his scarred, bloodied hands. "That is what war does. It takes pieces of you that you can never get back. And I am sorry. I am so sorry that I took those pieces from you." Anna closed her eyes. Tears leaked out, hot and unwelcome. "What if I can't get them back? What if this is who I am now?" "Then you are still better than me, still worth saving, still the only good thing in my entire goddamn life." She opened her eyes, looked at him through the blur of tears. "You really love me?" "Yes." "Even though I'm broken now?" "You are not broken. You are bent. There is a difference." His thumb wiped away her tears. "And if you are bent, then we are bent together. And maybe that is enough." Anna kissed him, not gentle, not sweet, desperate and raw and full of everything they couldn't say. He kissed back with equal ferocity, pulling her against him, one hand tangled in her damp hair. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Anna whispered, "I can't do this again." "I know. If you bring more violence into my life, if more people die because of me, I won't survive it." "I know." "So what do we do?" Alexander rested his forehead against hers. "We end it, permanently. No more wars, no more retaliation. Vasquez was the last. After tonight, I transition everything legitimate. Bury the rest so deep no one will ever find it." "Can you do that?" "I can try." His eyes met hers. "For you, I can try." Anna wanted to believe him, but she'd seen too much tonight, seen what he was capable of, seen the darkness that lived inside him, comfortable and familiar. Men like Alexander Vulov didn't just walk away from violence. They carried it with them, a shadow that never quite disappeared, waiting for the moment it was needed again. But maybe that was okay. Maybe she was carrying her own shadow now too. Maybe that's what love looked like in a world built on blood and broken promises. They lay down together on the bed, still half-dressed, too exhausted to do anything but hold each other. Anna's head rested on Alexander's chest. She could hear his heartbeat, steady, strong, alive. "Tell me something true," she whispered. "What do you want to know?" "Your grandmother, the one who read you Russian literature. What was she like?" Alexander was quiet for so long Anna thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "She was fierce. Tiny woman, barely 5 feet tall, but she could silence a room with a look. She survived Stalin's purges, World War II, the collapse of the Soviet Union. Nothing broke her." His hand moved through Anna's hair absently. "She used to say that books were the only truth in a world full of lies, that stories lasted longer than empires." "She sounds wonderful." "She was. She died when I was 15. The last thing she said to me was, 'Sasha, you will do terrible things in your life, but remember you are still human. Never forget you are still human.'" Anna's throat tightened. "Did you remember?" "I tried. But humans do terrible things too. That is the problem. There is no such thing as a good man in my world. Only men who survive and men who die." "That's not true." "No?" He laughed softly, bitterly. "Name one good thing I have done that was not ultimately selfish." "You rebuilt the library. For you. You stopped Ricardo Vasquez from trafficking women because he was in my territory. You're teaching yourself to read." "Because I was embarrassed." Anna pushed herself up on one elbow, looked down at him. "You saved my life tonight. Because I love you, that is the most selfish reason of all." "Love isn't selfish. It is when you love someone so much you would burn the world down to keep them safe." His hand came up, traced her cheekbone. "Do you know what I thought when I got your message? When I realized Vasquez had taken you?" "What?" "I thought, I will kill everyone. Everyone who let this happen. Everyone who touched her. Everyone who knew and did not stop it. I will burn this city to ash and dance in the flames. That is not love, Anna. That is obsession. That is madness." "Maybe," Anna said, "but you came for me anyway. I will always come for you." The certainty in his voice should have been romantic. Instead, it sounded like a threat, a promise of violence wrapped in devotion. Anna lay back down, pressing close to him, trying to find warmth in the cold reality of what they'd become. Outside, the city continued turning. People slept. Children dreamed. Couples made love and fought and made up. Normal people living normal lives. But inside the safe house, a monster and the woman who loved him held each other in the dark, knowing they'd crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. And somewhere in a warehouse across town, Ernesto Vasquez was learning exactly what happened to people who threatened what belonged to Alexander Vulov. Anna didn't ask for details. She didn't want to know. But she understood with terrible clarity that she was complicit now. That every breath Vasquez took before he died was her fault. That his blood was on her hands as much as Alexander's. And the worst part? She didn't feel guilty. She just felt tired. So tired of fighting, tired of pretending she was still the woman who'd shushed a stranger in a library. Tired of carrying the weight of morality in a world that didn't reward it. Maybe Alexander was right. Maybe there were no good people, just people who survived. And Anna Petrova had decided she wanted to survive, even if it meant becoming someone she didn't recognize, even if it meant loving a monster, even if it meant becoming one herself. She closed her eyes and tried to sleep, knowing that when morning came, they'd have to face what they'd done, knowing that Vasquez's death would only create a vacuum that someone else would try to fill, knowing that the war was never really over. It just changed shape, and she and Alexander would face it together, two broken people clinging to each other in the darkness, hoping it was enough, hoping they could survive one more day, one more night, one more heartbeat in a world that wanted them dead. Morning came with sirens. Anna woke to the sound of them, distant at first, then closer, then right outside the building. She sat up in bed, her heart already racing before her brain fully engaged. Alexander was at the window, dressed in fresh clothes, phone pressed to his ear. He was speaking rapid Russian, his voice clipped and urgent. "What's happening?" Anna asked. He held up a finger. "Wait. Finish the call. turned to face her. "The police found the warehouse," he said. "Vasquez's body and 4 of his men. Someone called it in anonymously an hour ago." Anna's stomach dropped. "Did you—" "No, I did not call them." His jaw tightened. "Which means someone else did. Someone who wants the police looking at what happened last night." "Who?" "That is what I am trying to find out." His phone rang again. He answered, listened, and his expression went dark. "When?" he asked in English. "How many?" A pause. "I will be there in 20 minutes. He ended the call. "The library," he said. "Someone just tried to break in. My men stopped them, but what? But there were cameras, news cameras. Someone tipped off the press that there was going to be an incident at the Vulov Community Endowment Library this morning. They filmed everything." Anna's hands went cold. "That's not an accident." "No, it is not." Alexander grabbed his jacket. "Someone is trying to expose what I am. Tie me to Vasquez's death. Force the police to investigate. And they are using the library to do it." "Who would do that?" "Someone who wants me destroyed. Someone who saw an opportunity in the chaos." He looked at her. "Get dressed. We are leaving." "Where are we going?" "To end this before it destroys everything." 20 minutes later, they pulled up outside the library. News vans lined the street. Reporters crowded the sidewalk. Police had established a perimeter, keeping everyone back. Anna's sanctuary had become a crime scene. Alexander's men stood by the entrance, weapons visible but holstered, faces grim. The attempted break-in had been messy. Broken glass, damaged door, clear evidence of violence. And the cameras had caught all of it. Pakan, one of his men, Victor, approached with a tablet. "You need to see this." He pulled up a news website. The headline screamed, "Russian mob violence erupts at local library." Below it, a video. Victor hit play. Anna watched herself from last night, being dragged out of the library by Vasquez's men. The footage was grainy, taken from a distance, but clear enough to show the violence, the bodies, the blood. "Where did they get this?" Alexander's voice was ice. "Security cameras," Victor said. "But not ours. Someone else planted cameras days ago. Hidden ones. They have footage of everything, our operations, meetings, the attack last night, all of it." "Who?" "We do not know yet, but whoever it is, they sent copies to every news outlet in the city and to the FBI. Anna felt the floor drop out from under her. The FBI. "How long do we have?" Alexander asked. "Hours, maybe less. They're already asking questions about the warehouse, about Vasquez, about you." Victor's expression was grim. "Pahan, you need to leave the city, now. Take the girl and disappear before—" "No." Alexander's voice cut like a blade. "I do not run." "Then you will go to prison. They have everything, the footage, the bodies, witness testimonies. You cannot fight this. Watch me." Anna grabbed Alexander's arm. "He's right. If you stay, they'll arrest you. They'll lock you up for the rest of your life. And if I run, everything I built collapses. My men, my businesses, everyone who depends on me, they all become targets. The families I pay for, the widows, the children, all of them exposed and vulnerable. Better them than you dead. You do not understand." He turned to face her fully. "In my world, running is the same as death. If I flee, I lose everything, my reputation, my power, the protection I provide. Other organizations will move in, men who are far worse than I am, and the first thing they will do is hunt down everyone I ever cared about to prove I am weak. So what's your plan? Stand here and wait for the FBI to drag you away? My plan is to find who did this and make them regret it before the authorities arrive." He looked at Victor. "Get everyone to the command center. Pull every piece of intelligence we have on Vasquez's organization. Someone wanted this war to destroy both of us. Find out who." Victor nodded and disappeared. Alexander turned back to Anna. "You need to leave. Get in the car. Dimitri's replacement will take you somewhere safe. Stop telling me to leave." "Anna, no. Every time things get dangerous, you try to shove me somewhere safe like I'm a child. I'm not. I'm here. I've been here through all of this, so stop protecting me and start trusting me." His eyes searched her face. "What do you want me to do?" Tell me the truth. All of it. Who could have done this? Who benefits from you and Vasquez destroying each other? Alexander was quiet for a moment. Then, there are 3 major organizations in this region. Mine, Vasquez's cartel, and the Italians, the Castellano family. They have been quiet for years, too quiet. If they wanted to eliminate their competition and consolidate power, starting a war between me and Vasquez would be the perfect strategy. So it's the Castellanos? Maybe. Or maybe it is someone inside my own organization, someone who thinks they can do my job better. He ran a hand through his hair, a rare gesture of frustration. In my world, Anna, everyone is a potential enemy. Trust is a luxury I cannot afford. You trust me. That is different. Why? Because you are the only person in my life who has nothing to gain from my death. The words hung heavy between them. Anna thought about that, about how alone Alexander really was, how every relationship in his world was transactional, conditional, ready to dissolve the moment the balance of power shifted. What if we're asking the wrong question, she said slowly. What do you mean? What if this isn't about who benefits from you dying? What if it's about who wants the library? Alexander's eyes narrowed. Explain. The cameras were planted days ago. The break-in this morning was deliberately public. The footage focuses on the library, not your other businesses. Someone wants the world to see this place as a crime scene, wants it shut down, condemned, seized by the city. So they can buy it when it goes to auction, Alexander finished. The same way I bought it from the city. Exactly. Whoever this is, they don't just want you destroyed. They want what you have, your territory, your operations. And the library is the center of it all. Alexander pulled out his phone, made a call. Check property records. Find out who has been making inquiries about the library building in the last 6 months. Anyone who tried to buy it before I did. Anyone who submitted bids. He listened. I do not care if it takes time we do not have. Do it now. He ended the call and looked at Anna with something like admiration. You think like a criminal. I think like a librarian. We're territorial about our buildings. Despite everything, he almost smiled. Then his phone rang again. He answered, listened. His expression went from cold to murderous in the space of a heartbeat. Where? He asked. When? A pause. Do not engage. I will handle it personally. He hung up. They found him, he said. Found who? The man who planted the cameras. One of my own, a soldier named Alexei. He has been with me for 3 years. Trusted. Reliable. Alexander's voice was hollow. He sold us out, and he just tried to run. Where is he? My men have him cornered in a parking garage downtown. He knows I am coming. He knows what happens next. Alexander looked at her. This is not something you can witness, Anna. What I am about to do, I know. I'll wait here. No, you will go to the safe house with Alexander. She grabbed his jacket. I'm staying at the library. This is my place, my sanctuary. If it's going down, I'm going down with it. He stared at her. You are the most stubborn woman I have ever met. Good. You need someone stubborn enough to tell you when you're being an idiot. This time he did smile. Brief. Genuine. Then it vanished, replaced by the cold mask of the Pacan. Victor, he called. Stay with her. Do not let her leave the building. And if the FBI arrives before I return, you call me immediately. Yes, Pacan. Alexander turned back to Anna, cupped her face with both hands, kissed her hard and desperate and final. If something goes wrong, he started, nothing's going wrong. You're going to get answers. Come back here, and we're going to figure this out together. You have too much faith in me. Someone has to. He kissed her again. Then he was gone. Anna stood in the ruined entrance of the library and watched him drive away with 3 of his men, leaving Victor and 2 others behind for her protection. The news crews were still outside. The police were still asking questions. The FBI was probably already on their way. And Anna was standing in the center of it all, waiting for the world to collapse. Miss Petrova, Victor said gently, you should come inside, away from the cameras. She let him guide her back into the library. The circulation desk, the stacks, the children's section that was still destroyed from Vasquez's message. Everything looked different now, tainted, The sanctuary she'd tried to protect had become ground zero for a war she barely understood. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You should have stayed hidden, little librarian. Now you will watch everything burn." Anna's blood ran cold. She showed the text to Victor. His face hardened. "This is a threat. We need to move you." "No, I'm not running. Trace the number. Find out who sent it." "Miss Petrova, do it." Victor made calls, coordinated with Alexander's tech people, tried to track the source. 5 minutes later, he had an answer. "It came from inside the library," he said, his voice tight. "Someone with access to our internal network." Anna's heart stopped. "That's impossible. The only people in here are us, and whoever planted the cameras days ago." Victor's hand moved to his weapon. They could still be here, hidden, waiting. Before Anna could respond, the lights went out. Total darkness. Victor's flashlight clicked on. "Stay behind me." They moved through the library in silence. Victor's flashlight beam cut through the blackness, illuminating shelves and shadows and nothing else. Then Anna heard it. Footsteps above them. The library had a second floor, mostly storage and old administrative offices that hadn't been used in years. Alexander's men had cleared it weeks ago, declared it secure. But someone was up there now. Victor spoke into his radio in Russian. The two other guards responded, moving to cover exits. "Miss Petrova," Victor whispered. "We are going to my vehicle. Now. No arguments." "Wait. Now!" He grabbed her arm, started pulling her toward the back entrance. That's when the shooting started. Not gunfire. Something else. Small, precise impacts. Thunk, thunk, thunk. Crossbow bolts. One of Alexander's guards went down without a sound, a bolt through his throat. Victor shoved Anna behind a bookshelf. "Stay down!" He returned fire toward the muzzle flashes, his weapon loud in the enclosed space. The second-floor landing erupted with impacts. Then silence. Victor's radio crackled. The other guard reporting in Russian. Then the guard's voice cut off mid-sentence. "They are flanking us," Victor breathed. "Professionals. They knew exactly where we would be." "How many?" Anna whispered. "At least 3. Maybe more." His flashlight beam swept the darkness. "They want you, Miss Petrova. They are trying to separate you from protection. Then use me as bait." "What?" "You heard me. Let me walk out into the open. When they come for me, you take them out. The Pakhan would kill me. The Pakhan isn't here. And if we stay hidden, they'll just pick us off one by one." Anna's voice was steady, despite the terror clawing at her throat. "Trust me." Victor stared at her for a long moment. Then, "You are as crazy as he is." "I know." He positioned himself behind a desk with a clear line of sight to the main floor. Anna took a breath, stepped out from behind the bookshelf, and walked into the center of the library. Her footsteps echoed in the darkness. "I'm here," she called out. "If you want me, come and get me." Silence. Then movement. A figure dropped from the second-floor landing, landed in a crouch 20 feet away, dressed in black tactical gear, crossbow in hand. A woman's voice. "Anna Petrova, you are very brave, or very stupid." Anna's heart hammered. "Who are you?" "Someone who appreciates what your bear built here, this library, this territory, this empire." The woman stood slowly. "It is a shame he will not live long enough to see it pass into better hands." "The Castellanos sent you." "Clever girl. Yes, they sent me." The woman raised her crossbow. "Nothing personal. But your death serves a purpose. It will destroy Alexander Vulov faster than any bullet could. He will become reckless, sloppy, easy to eliminate. He'll kill every single one of you. Perhaps, but not before we kill everyone he loves." The woman aimed, starting with you. Victor's shot came from the darkness. The woman moved faster than should have been possible, and the bullet missed by inches. She fired her crossbow in Victor's direction, pivoted, and disappeared into the stacks. "Run!" Victor shouted. Anna ran. Behind her, gunfire erupted, Victor engaging targets she couldn't see. She made it to the back hallway, her breath coming in panicked gasps, when someone grabbed her from behind. An arm around her throat, a knife pressed to her ribs. "Do not move," a male voice growled in her ear, "or I open you up and let you bleed out on your precious library floor." Anna froze. The man dragged her backward, toward the emergency exit. She could feel the knife point digging into her side, could smell gun oil and sweat. "Scream and you die," he said. "Fight and you die. Your only chance is to come quietly and hope your bear values you enough to surrender what we want." They were steps from the door when Anna made her choice. She went limp, dead weight, dropping suddenly. The man's grip loosened for just a second as he tried to compensate for her falling. Anna grabbed a book from the return cart beside her, a thick hardcover, at least 3 pounds, and swung it backward with everything she had. It connected with the man's face. He grunted, stumbled. The knife sliced across Anna's ribs, but didn't sink deep. She scrambled away, gasping, her side burning. The man recovered fast, came at her with the knife raised. A bookshelf crashed down on him. Victor appeared from behind it, breathing hard, blood running down his arm. "Are you hurt?" "I'm fine." "You?" "Fine enough." He pulled her to her feet. "We need to leave. Now. There are too many of them." They ran for the front entrance, burst through the doors onto the street where news cameras and police and civilians all stood watching. Safety in numbers, safety in witnesses. Anna's side was bleeding through her shirt. Victor's arm was worse. They looked like survivors of a massacre, which she supposed they were. The police moved in immediately, shouting orders, weapons drawn. News cameras captured everything, and Anna stood there, bleeding and trembling, and realized the worst part. She had no idea if Alexander was alive or dead. No idea if the man who'd gone to interrogate a traitor had walked into his own ambush. No idea if she'd ever see him again. Her phone rang. Alexander's name on the screen. She answered with shaking hands. "Are you okay?" "I am alive." "Where are you?" "Outside the library. The police are here. The FBI is probably coming. And there were—" "Alexander, the Castellanos sent people. They tried to kill me. They're still inside." Silence on the other end, then. "How many?" "I don't know. At least 3. Maybe more." "Are you hurt?" "Just a cut. I'm okay. But Victor, I am already on my way. Do not talk to the police. Do not say anything until I arrive with lawyers. Alexander, they have everything. The footage, the bodies, witnesses. Even if you come back, they're going to arrest you." "I know." "Then why are you coming back?" "Because you are there, and I will not let them take you without a fight." The call ended. Anna stood on the sidewalk, surrounded by police and cameras, and the ruins of everything she'd tried to protect, and understood the terrible truth. Alexander Vulov was coming back, not to save himself, to save her. Even if it meant walking into custody, even if it meant losing everything he'd built, even if it meant the end of his empire. He was coming for her. And somewhere in the city, the Castellano family was waiting for exactly that, waiting for Alexander to show himself, waiting to finish what they'd started, waiting to take everything. Anna pressed a hand to her bleeding side and watched the street for headlights, knowing that when Alexander arrived, the real war would begin. Not a war fought in shadows and warehouses, but a war fought in broad daylight, with the whole city watching. A war that only one side could survive. And Anna Petrova, the quiet librarian who'd once believed in sanctuaries and safety, was about to become a soldier whether she wanted to or not. Because in Alexander's world, there was no such thing as innocent bystanders, only survivors. And the dead. The ambulance arrived within minutes. Paramedics swarmed Anna and Victor, checking wounds, asking questions she barely registered. The cut on her side wasn't deep, painful, but survivable. They cleaned it, bandaged it, told her she needed stitches, but it could wait. Victor's arm was worse. A through-and-through gunshot wound that had him gritting his teeth while they worked. "You should go to the hospital," Anna told him. "Not until Pakan arrives," Victor said through clenched teeth. "I do not leave you unprotected." The police tried to separate them, tried to ask questions. But Victor refused to speak, and Anna followed his lead, staying silent while uniformed officers exchanged frustrated glances. Then the FBI arrived. 2 agents in dark suits, badges displayed prominently. They moved through the crowd with authority, conferring with local police, examining the library entrance. One of them, a woman in her 40s, sharp-eyed and severe, approached Anna directly. "Anna Petrova?" "Yes." "I'm Special Agent Chen, FBI. We need to ask you some questions about Alexander Vulov and the events that occurred here tonight. I want a lawyer. Agent Chen's expression didn't change. You're not under arrest. We just want to talk. Then I definitely want a lawyer. Miss Petrova, we have footage of you being removed from this library by known cartel members. We have evidence of organized crime activities operating from this location. And we have witness statements placing you in close proximity to Alexander Vulov for the past 6 weeks. Chen leaned closer. You're either a victim or an accomplice. Help us figure out which. Anna met her gaze steadily. I want a lawyer. Until then, I have nothing to say. Chen sighed. Have it your way. But when Vulov arrives, and we know he's coming, we will arrest him. And anyone who interferes will be arrested too. So if you're smart, you'll cooperate now before this gets worse. It's already worse, so I'll wait for my lawyer. Chen straightened. Suit yourself. She walked away, leaving Anna standing beside the ambulance with Victor, both of them bleeding and exhausted and waiting for Alexander to walk into a trap. The black SUV appeared 15 minutes later. It came fast, cutting through traffic, ignoring the police attempts to establish a perimeter. It screeched to a stop in the middle of the street, and Alexander emerged like a storm made flesh. He looked like he'd walked through hell, blood on his shirt, his jacket torn, a fresh cut across his cheekbone, but alive, moving, his eyes scanning the crowd until they found Anna. Relief flooded his expression for exactly 1 second before the mask came back. Behind him, 3 of his men exited the vehicle, moving to flank him, all of them armed, all of them ready. The police drew weapons. Alexander Vulov! Agent Chen's voice cut through the chaos. FBI, put your hands where I can see them. Alexander ignored her completely. He walked straight toward Anna, his focus absolute. Do not come any closer, Chen shouted. I will have my men fire. Alexander stopped 5 feet from Anna. His eyes traveled over her, cataloging injuries, checking for damage, making sure she was whole. You are bleeding, he said quietly. I'm okay. Did they hurt you? Not as much as they wanted to. Something dark and satisfied moved across his face. Good. Alexander Vulov, you are under arrest. Chen was closer now, weapon drawn, other agents moving in. Get on the ground, now! Alexander didn't move, didn't even look at her. Victor, he said, still watching Anna. Take her and leave. The safe house. Lock it down. Do not come back here no matter what happens. No, Anna said. This is not a negotiation. You're right, it's not. Anna stepped closer to him. If you're staying, I'm staying. If they arrest you, they arrest me too. We're done with you trying to protect me while you throw yourself into the fire. Anna? No, her voice cracked. You don't get to sacrifice yourself and call it love. That's not how this works. It is the only way this works, Alexander said, his voice rough. The FBI has everything they need to destroy me. I am going to prison. That is inevitable. But you still have a chance. You can walk away, claim I coerced you, held you hostage. They will believe that. They want to believe that. I don't care what they believe. You should, because I care. He reached out slowly, cupped her face with one bloodied hand. I love you enough to let you go, to let you hate me if it means you survive this. Do you understand? Tears burned Anna's eyes. I understand that you're an idiot. He almost smiled. Then the FBI agents were on him. They grabbed his arms, yanked them behind his back, forced him to his knees. He didn't fight, didn't resist. Just let them cuff him while Anna watched, her heart tearing itself apart. Alexander Vulov, you are under arrest for racketeering, money laundering, and suspicion of murder, Agent Chen recited. You have the right to remain silent. I want my lawyer, Alexander interrupted, and I want this woman, he nodded toward Anna, released immediately. She is not involved in my business. She is an employee, nothing more. We'll determine her involvement, Chen said. Take him. They hauled Alexander to his feet, started walking him toward a waiting FBI vehicle. He looked back once, met Anna's eyes, and mouthed 2 words. Trust me. Then he was gone. Anna stood there, numb and bleeding, watching the FBI take away the only person who'd ever made her feel like she mattered. Victor touched her shoulder gently. Miss Petrova, we should go. Where? The safe house? What's the point? They'll just find me there. Not if we do this correctly. Victor pulled out his phone, made a call, spoke in rapid Russian. Pakan's lawyers are already on their way. They will handle his arraignment, his bail hearing, everything. Our job is to keep you safe until this is resolved. Resolved how? They have evidence, they have witnesses, they have everything. They have pieces, Victor corrected. But not the whole picture. Trust the Pakan. He has been preparing for this possibility for months. Anna wanted to believe him, but watching Alexander disappear into that FBI vehicle felt like watching the end of something she couldn't name. The paramedics insisted Anna go to the hospital for stitches. Victor accompanied her, along with two other guards who appeared from somewhere in the chaos. The hospital stitched her up, gave her antibiotics, told her to rest. Rest. Like that was possible. By the time they released her, dawn was breaking over the city. The safe house felt empty without Alexander's presence. Anna sat on the couch, still wearing her blood-stained clothes, and tried to process everything that had happened in the past 12 hours. The attack. The FBI. Alexander's arrest. The Castellanos. Victor, she said suddenly. The woman in the library. The one who tried to kill me. Where is she? Victor's expression was grim. We are looking. She and her team escaped during the FBI's arrival. They are still out there. So this isn't over. No, they failed to kill you. They failed to trap the Pakan before the FBI arrived. But they succeeded in exposing him, in turning his empire into a crime scene. That gives them exactly what they wanted. Chaos. Opportunity. To take over his territory. Yes. Anna's hands clenched. Then we need to stop them. Miss Petrova. Don't Miss Petrova me. If the Castellanos take over, what happens to all the people Alexander protected? The families he supported? The operations he ran that actually helped people? Victor was quiet for a moment. They will suffer. The Castellanos are not known for their mercy or their charity. They will strip everything valuable and discard the rest. Then we fight back. With what? The Pakan is in custody. His assets will be frozen. His men will scatter to avoid arrest. There is nothing left to fight with. Anna thought about that, about the library, about the Russian literature collection, about everything Alexander had built in the shadows while pretending to build something legitimate in the light. He has contingencies, she said slowly. Alexander Vulov doesn't walk into anything without a backup plan. Where would he keep them? Where would he hide the things that matter most? Victor's eyes widened slightly. The library. The library, Anna confirmed. Show me. They returned to the crime scene at noon. The FBI had finished their initial investigation, seized computers and documents, but hadn't discovered everything. Anna knew the library better than anyone. She knew the spaces Alexander had converted, the rooms he'd soundproofed, the walls he'd reinforced. She knew where he'd hide his secrets. The administrative office had been thoroughly searched, but the FBI had been looking for evidence of crimes. They hadn't been looking for escape routes. Anna ran her fingers along the wall paneling until she found the seam, pressed. A section of wall clicked open, revealing a narrow passage. Victor stared. I did not know this was here. Alexander had it built during the renovations. He told me it was for emergencies. Anna stepped inside. I'm guessing this qualifies. The passage led to a small, hidden room, maybe 10 feet by 10 feet. Inside, filing cabinets, a safe, and a laptop sitting on a desk. Anna approached the laptop. It was on, screen glowing softly. A single file waited on the desktop, labeled with her name. She opened it. A video. Alexander's face filled the screen. He looked tired. This had been recorded recently, maybe days ago. Anna, his recorded voice said, if you are watching this, then things have gone very badly. I am either dead or in custody, and you are trying to figure out what to do next. So I will tell you. Anna's throat tightened. In the safe behind you is everything you need. Passwords, account numbers, locations of assets I have hidden from everyone, including my own people. Enough money to disappear completely. To start over somewhere they will never find you. Take it, use it, and do not look back. He paused, ran a hand through his hair. Or, he continued, you can use it to fight. The Castellanos think they have won. They think exposing me destroys everything I built, but they are wrong. What I built was never about me. It was about the people who depend on me, the families, the businesses, the infrastructure that keeps this city from falling into chaos. His eyes seemed to look directly at her through the screen. If you choose to fight, you will need allies. Victor knows who to trust. The documents in the safe include leverage on city officials, police, even some FBI agents. Not enough to stop the investigation, but enough to buy time, enough to negotiate. Another pause. But Anna, understand this. If you fight, you become what I am. You step fully into this world, and there is no coming back from that. No returning to the woman you were. So choose carefully. Choose knowing that I will love you regardless. Even if you disappear, even if you walk away and never think of me again, I will love you from whatever prison cell they put me in, and I will be grateful you are alive and safe. His expression softened. You made me believe I could be more than a monster. You made me want to be better. That is a gift I do not deserve and will never forget. Thank you, Anna Petrova. Thank you for shushing me. Thank you for staying. Thank you for teaching me that even bears can learn to read. The video ended. Anna stared at the blank screen, tears streaming down her face. Behind her, Victor waited silently. He knew, Anna whispered. He knew this would happen. He planned for it. He always plans for everything. Then why did he let them arrest him? Why didn't he run? Because running meant leaving you behind, and that is the one thing he would never do. Anna turned to the safe. The combination was written on a note beside the laptop. She opened it. Inside, exactly what Alexander had promised. Documents, USB drives, cash, a handgun, and a burner phone with a single number programmed in. She picked up the phone. What is this number? She asked Victor. He looked at the screen. His expression shifted. That is Antonio Castellano's private line, the head of the Castellano family. Why would Alexander give me that? Because negotiation is always an option, even with enemies. Anna stared at the phone for a long moment, thought about everything she'd lost, everything she'd become, everything Alexander had sacrificed to protect her. Then she made her choice. She dialed the number. It rang twice before a smooth male voice answered. This is unexpected. Is it? Anna asked. You just tried to kill me. You think I wouldn't call? Anna Petrova, the librarian who tamed Alexander Vulov. I have heard so much about you. I bet you have. Let me guess. You expected me to run, to disappear, to let you carve up Alexander's territory without a fight. That would be the smart thing to do. I'm not feeling particularly smart right now. I'm feeling angry, tired, and very, very done with people trying to kill me. Antonio laughed. I like you. You have spirit. It is a shame you wasted it on a man who is currently sitting in a federal holding cell. Alexander might be in a cell, but his empire isn't gone. His people aren't gone, and neither am I. You think you can hold his territory? A librarian with no experience, no reputation, no respect? I think I know things you don't. I think I have access to resources you can't touch. And I think you know that, or you wouldn't have answered this call. Silence on the other end. Then, what do you want, Miss Petrova? I want a meeting. You and me. Neutral ground, no weapons, no tricks, just a conversation. About what? About how we divide this city without burning it to the ground. More silence. You're either very brave or very stupid, Antonio said finally. Everyone keeps saying that. Maybe it's both. Perhaps. Very well, there is a restaurant, Bella Notte on 5th Street. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Come alone, or my men will kill you before you reach the door. I'll be there. Miss Petrova, do not make the mistake of thinking I am Alexander Vulov. I do not have his sentimental weaknesses. Good. That makes two of us. She hung up. Victor stared at her. That was either brilliant or suicidal. Probably both. Anna set the phone down. But it's the only move we have. If we fight the Castellanos head on, we lose. We don't have the manpower or the time. But if we can negotiate, the Castellanos do not negotiate. They take. Everyone negotiates when they think they can get more than they'd win in a war. Anna pulled out the documents from the safe, started sorting through them. Alexander has dirt on half the city. Judges, councilmen, police chiefs. If the Castellanos take over his territory through violence, all of that information goes public. Careers end. People go to prison. But if they negotiate, They get the territory without the exposure, Victor finished. And you get protection for Alexander's people, his families, his legitimate businesses, everything he built that actually mattered. Anna looked up. And maybe, if I'm lucky, leverage to get him out of federal custody. That is a very dangerous game you're playing. I know, but I learned from the best. The next 24 hours passed in a blur. Anna coordinated with Alexander's remaining men, reaching out to the ones who hadn't scattered, bringing them together with a simple message. The Pakan is down, but not out. Hold your positions. Protect your territories. Trust is coming. She met with Alexander's lawyers. They explained the charges, the evidence, the likely outcome. Federal prison, minimum 10 years, possibly life. Unless they could negotiate a plea deal. Unless they could prove coercion that Alexander had been protecting the city from worse elements. It was a long shot, but Anna had become good at long shots. She visited Alexander once. The federal detention center was cold, sterile, designed to break spirits. They brought him out in handcuffs and orange jumpsuit, looking more tired than she'd ever seen him. They sat across from each other, separated by reinforced glass, speaking through phones. "You should not be here," Alexander said immediately. "Too bad. I'm here." "Anna?" "I called Antonio Castellano." Alexander's expression went very still. "You did what?" "I called him. Set up a meeting. Tomorrow night. Cancel it. Immediately. You do not negotiate with that man. He will kill you the moment you walk through the door." "He'll try, but I don't think he will." Anna leaned forward. "You left me everything I need to make him listen. The documents, the leverage, the proof that starting a war costs more than making a deal. And what happens when he realizes you are bluffing, that you do not have the stomach to actually use that leverage?" "Who says I'm bluffing?" Alexander stared at her through the glass. Really looked at her. Saw the change that had happened over the past 6 weeks. "You are not the woman I met in that library," he said quietly. "No, I'm not. That woman is gone. You helped kill her." And his voice was steady. "But the woman sitting here now? She's the one you created. The one who watched you torture a man and told you to make him talk faster. The one who stood in a library while assassins tried to kill her and used herself as bait. The one who's about to walk into a room with the head of the Italian mob and negotiate for your life." "Anna, so don't tell me I can't do this. Don't tell me to run away and be safe. Because I'm done running. I'm done being protected. I'm done watching you sacrifice everything while I hide." His eyes were bright. "I never wanted this for you." "I know, but it's what we have, so we make it work." They sat in silence for a moment, just looking at each other through the glass barrier. "If this goes wrong," Alexander said finally, "if Antonio kills you, I will burn his entire family to ash. From inside this cell, I will dismantle everything he loves. I will make him wish he had never heard your name." "I know. That's why it won't go wrong." "You cannot be certain. Nothing is certain, but I'm done being afraid of that." Anna stood up. "I have to go. Lots to do before tomorrow." "Anna, wait." She paused, phone still pressed to her ear. "I love you," Alexander said. "I know I have said it before, but I need you to hear it now. I love you more than I have ever loved anything in my brutal, bloody life. And if you die trying to save me, I will never forgive myself. Then I guess I better not die." She hung up the phone, walked out without looking back. Tomorrow night would determine everything. Bellinote was exactly the kind of restaurant mobsters used for meetings in movies. Dark wood paneling, candlelit tables, a single private room in the back where powerful men made decisions that shaped cities. Anna arrived at exactly 8 p.m. She wore a simple black dress. No weapons. They'd have searched her anyway. Just the USB drive in her purse containing copies of everything Alexander had hidden. The hostess led her to the private room without a word. Inside, Antonio Castellano sat at the head of a long table, flanked by 2 men who looked like they ate bullets for breakfast. He was older than Anna expected, maybe 60, gray hair slicked back, wearing a suit that probably cost more than a car. He stood when she entered. Old-world manners. "Miss Petrova, thank you for coming." "Did I have a choice?" "Everyone has choices. Most people simply choose poorly." He gestured to the seat across from him. Please, sit. We have much to discuss. Anna sat. The two guards positioned themselves behind Antonio, hands folded, eyes dead. Wine? Antonio offered. No, thank you. Wise. Never drink with people who might want you dead. He poured himself a glass. So, let us dispense with pleasantries. You asked for this meeting. What is it you think you can offer me that I cannot simply take? Anna pulled out the USB drive, set it on the table between them. Information, proof, leverage. She met his eyes. Alexander Vulov spent 5 years collecting evidence on every dirty politician, corrupt cop, and compromised judge in this city. He has recordings of conversations, financial records, photographs. Everything you'd need to destroy a dozen careers. And you think I care about that? I think if that information goes public, it creates chaos, investigations, federal scrutiny, the kind of attention that makes it very difficult to operate, the kind that brings down everyone, including you. Antonio's expression didn't change. You are threatening me. I'm offering you a choice. Take Alexander's territory by force, and I release everything. Watch this city burn while the FBI crawls up everyone's ass for the next decade. Or we make a deal. You get the territory. You get the operations. You get everything you wanted. But Alexander's people, his families, his employees, his legitimate businesses, they stay protected. They stay funded. They stay alive. And in exchange, you help me get him out. Use your connections, your lawyers, whatever it takes to cut a deal with the feds. Reduce sentence, time served. I don't care. Just get him out. Antonio leaned back in his chair, studying her. You would trade his empire for his freedom. Yes. Even knowing he built that empire with blood? Even knowing the families you want to protect only exist because he was willing to kill for them? Even knowing that, Antonio smiled. You are not what I expected. I get that a lot. He was quiet for a moment, swirling wine in his glass. Alexander Vulov is a dinosaur, a man who believes in honor and loyalty in a world that values neither. He should have been eliminated years ago, but he survived because he was useful, because he kept order, because he was predictable. And now? Now he is in federal custody and his empire is collapsing. You think you can hold it together with threats and negotiations? You are one woman with no experience and no respect. The moment I leave this room, my men could kill you. My organization could absorb everything Vulov built, and no one would stop us. You're right, Anna said. You could do all of that, but then you'd have to deal with the fallout, the investigations, the exposure, the FBI looking very closely at how the Castellanos expanded their territory so quickly after Vulov's arrest. She leaned forward. Or you could take my deal. Get everything you want cleanly, legitimately, with none of the mess. Because let's be honest, you didn't survive this long by being stupid. You survived by knowing when to fight and when to negotiate. Antonio set down his wine glass. You remind me of my daughter. She has your fire, your refusal to be intimidated. Is that a compliment or a threat? It is an observation. He stood up, walked to the window overlooking the street. Very well, Miss Petrova. I will consider your offer, but understand something. If I agree to this, you become responsible for maintaining order in Vulov's former territories. You become the face of his operations, and if anything goes wrong, if his people cause problems, if his businesses become liabilities, I will hold you personally accountable. Do you understand what that means? It means if I screw up, you kill me. Exactly. Anna stood up too. Then I guess I better not screw up. Antonio turned to face her, extended his hand. She shook it. His grip was firm, final. My lawyers will contact Vulov's lawyers tomorrow, he said. We will begin negotiations with the federal prosecutors. It will take time, months maybe, but I will get him a deal, 5 years, maybe less with good behavior. That's still 5 years. It is better than life, and it is the best you will get. Antonio released her hand. Go home, Miss Petrova. Rebuild, keep order, and pray that your bear is worth everything you just traded for him. Anna left the restaurant feeling like she'd just made a deal with the devil, which she supposed she had. The months that followed were brutal. Alexander's lawyers worked with the FBI, negotiating a plea deal. 7 years. reduced to 5 with good behavior, racketeering and money laundering charges. The murder charges dropped due to lack of direct evidence. It was a miracle, and it cost everything. Alexander pled guilty, gave up his empire, handed over his operations to be absorbed by the Castellanos and other organizations, became a convicted felon with no power, no respect, no legacy except the library that still bore his name. But he was alive, and in 5 years, he'd be free. Anna took over what was left, not as a pacan. She had no interest in running a criminal organization, but as a mediator, a bridge between Alexander's former people and the new powers taking over. She made sure the families got their payments, made sure the legitimate businesses stayed funded, made sure no one was abandoned in the transition. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But it was something. The library reopened 6 months after Alexander's arrest. The FBI had seized evidence and cleared out. The city, seeing an opportunity, tried to reclaim the building, but Anna fought them in court, using Alexander's money and the Castellano family's pressure to force a settlement. The Eastern Branch Library remained private property, owned by the Vulov Community Endowment, run by Anna Petrova. She rebuilt the children's section first, new bookshelves, fresh paint, alphabet rugs that didn't have knife slashes through them, the tiny plastic chairs that Alexander had once sat in, learning to read like a stubborn child. She replaced everything that had been destroyed. Then she filled the shelves with books. The Russian literature collection stayed. It was too valuable to remove, too important to Alexander's memory. Anna cataloged every volume, created a proper archival system, and opened it to scholars and researchers. It became one of the premier Russian literature collections in America. The library thrived. Circulation increased. Programs expanded. The space that had once been a crime scene became, slowly and painfully, a sanctuary again. Anna worked 14-hour days, rebuilt, organized, fought, and every Sunday she drove 3 hours to the federal prison where Alexander was serving his sentence. They'd sit across from each other, separated by glass, and talk about nothing and everything. About books he was reading in prison, about programs Anna was starting at the library, about the future they might have when he got out. If he got out, if they could survive that long. "You look tired," Alexander said one Sunday, 2 years into his sentence. "I am tired. Running a library is exhausting." "Is that all you are running?" Anna smiled faintly. "The Castellanos keep their word. They leave me alone. Let me do my job, as long as I stay out of their business." "And do you? Stay out of their business?" "Mostly." "Anna? I'm not getting involved in anything criminal, but when I see opportunities to help people, to funnel money to families who need it, to create jobs, to protect vulnerable people, I take them. That's not crime. That's just being human." Alexander's expression softened. "You are a better person than I ever was. I learned from you. You learned from the worst parts of me. No, I learned that survival doesn't have to mean cruelty. That power can be used to protect, not just destroy. You showed me that whether you meant to or not." He was quiet for a moment, then, "I dream about you." "Yeah?" "Every night. I dream that I am back in the library, sitting in those ridiculous tiny chairs, and you are teaching me to read, and everything is simple and quiet and safe." His voice cracked slightly. "And then I wake up here, and I remember what I am, what I destroyed." Anna pressed her hand against the glass. "You didn't destroy anything that mattered. The library is still standing. The people you protected are still protected, and I'm still here. That's what matters." Alexander pressed his hand against the glass opposite hers. 3 more years. 3 more years, then you come home." "Home," he repeated, like the word was foreign. "Where is home for a man like me?" "The library, with me, if you still want that." "If I still want that," he echoed. "Anna, I have wanted nothing else for 2 years, but you deserve better than an ex-convict with blood on his hands." "Maybe, but you're the ex-convict I want." He almost smiled. 3 years later, on a cold Tuesday morning in November, Alexander Vulov walked out of federal prison. Anna was waiting. She stood beside her car, the same beat-up sedan she'd driven for years, holding a to-go cup of terrible coffee and wearing a gray cardigan that had seen better days. She looked exactly the same, and completely different, stronger, harder. Someone who'd survived a war and built something from the ashes. Alexander walked toward her slowly, like he was afraid she might disappear if he moved too fast. He stopped a few feet away. "Hi," he said. "Hi." They stared at each other. 5 years of separation, 5 years of phone calls through glass and letters and waiting. Then Anna closed the distance and kissed him. He wrapped his arms around her, held her like she was the only real thing in the world, and kissed her back with everything he had. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Anna said, "Welcome home." "Where's home?" "The library. Where else?" They drove back to the city in comfortable silence. Alexander watched the world pass by through the window, changed and unchanged in equal measure. "What happened to the Castellanos?" he asked finally. "Still running things, still leaving me alone. We have an understanding. And my people? Safe, employed, moved on to different organizations or legitimate work. No one was abandoned. And you?" Anna glanced at him. "I run a library. I catalog rare books. I teach children to read. And I try not to think too much about the fact that I once negotiated with the mob and lived to tell about it. That is not an answer. It's the only answer I have." They arrived at the library in the afternoon. It looked different than Alexander remembered. Fresh paint, new windows, a sign that read, "Eastern Branch Library, Vulov Community Endowment, all are welcome." Anna led him inside. The space had been transformed. Modern, clean, still recognizable but healed. The circulation desk, the stacks, the children's section with its bright colors and tiny chairs. Everything he'd destroyed. Everything she'd rebuilt. "What do you think?" Anna asked. Alexander walked through the space slowly, trailing his fingers along bookshelves, examining titles, remembering. He stopped in the children's section, picked up a book from the shelf. Green Eggs and Ham, the same book they'd started with, the same book that had begun everything. "You kept it," he said. "Of course I kept it. It's yours." "Not anymore. I gave up everything, remember?" "You gave up your empire, not this, never this." Anna moved to stand beside him. "This library belongs to both of us now. Every book, every shelf, every tiny plastic chair. We built it together, and no one can take that away." Alexander set down the book, turned to face her. "I do not know how to be a regular person," he admitted. "I do not know how to exist without violence or power or control. For 30 years, that is who I was. And now you're just a man who spent 5 years in prison and gets a second chance." Anna took his hand. "So we figure it out together. You help me run this library. You read books to children. You learn to be something other than the Pahan. And I learn to be something other than the woman who survived him. And if I cannot change? If the violence is too much a part of me? Then we deal with it, together, like we've dealt with everything else." Alexander looked at her for a long moment. Then he pulled her close, rested his forehead against hers. "I do not deserve you," he whispered. "Probably not. But you have me anyway." They stood there in the children's section, surrounded by picture books and alphabet rugs and tiny plastic chairs, holding each other like they were the only solid things in a world that kept trying to break them. Outside, the city continued turning. People lived and died. Empires rose and fell. Violence and beauty existed side by side like they always had. But inside the library, in the sanctuary they'd built from blood and broken promises, there was finally peace. The kind of peace that came from surviving, from choosing each other despite everything, from refusing to let the darkness win completely. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even close to the happy ending fairy tales promised. But it was real, and it was theirs. And for two people who'd spent so long living in shadows, that was enough. That night, after the library closed and the world fell quiet, Anna and Alexander sat in the children's section together. She pulled out Green Eggs and Ham. "Your turn," she said, handing it to him. Alexander took the book, opened it to the first page, and began to read. His English had improved in prison, 5 years of practice, 5 years of reading everything he could get his hands on. But he still stumbled sometimes on difficult words, still had an accent that turned every sentence slightly foreign. "I am Sam," he read. "Sam I am." Anna listened, her head resting on his shoulder, watching him sound out words and turn pages and become for just a moment, someone other than the monster he'd been. When he finished, he closed the book and set it aside. Better? Anna asked. Better, but I still prefer when you read to me. Too bad. You're stuck reading to yourself now. Then I suppose I must keep practicing. I suppose you must. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the library settle around them. The creak of old wood, the whisper of pages, the steady rhythm of books breathing on their shelves. Thank you, Alexander said suddenly. For what? For shushing me 5 years ago. For staying when you should have run. For becoming something beautiful in a world that tried to make you ugly. He turned to look at her. Thank you for saving me, Anna Petrova. In every way a person can be saved. Anna's eyes burned with tears. Thank you for buying my library, for giving me a reason to fight, for showing me I was stronger than I thought I was. We saved each other, Alexander said. Yeah, I guess we did. They left the library together as the first stars appeared in the darkening sky, walked to Anna's apartment, their apartment now, and tried to build something that looked like a normal life. It would take time. Years, maybe. Learning to be people instead of survivors. Learning to exist without the adrenaline of danger. Learning to be soft when the world had made them so hard. But they had time now. And they had each other. And somewhere in a library on the corner of 5th and Maple, surrounded by books and silence and the ghosts of everything they'd been, their story waited on the shelves. Not a story about heroes or villains, just a story about two broken people who found each other in the darkness and refused to let go. A story about a monster who learned to read, and a librarian who learned to roar, and the sanctuary they built together from the ashes of everything they'd destroyed. It wasn't a fairy tale, but it was enough.